hey, you don't follow the law. And he's saying, but you don't follow the law either.
Mhm.
That's the whole point.
Over
He's pointing
something
out,
which is what they should be doing. Do you understand that? I mean, if
Well,
this was
it's
just
a
like, well, I mean,
parable.
yeah.
It's a parable. It's trying to use
okay.
to describe things. Like you're trying to condemn these people because they're not doing ritual washing of hands before you
Mhm.
eat. And people are saying, why are atheists defending the Bible? I am
Okay.
not defending Christianity. What I am
No.
defending is that Christianity and Islam is not scientific, it's theology. It's a different category. And when you make
Mhm.
arguments, when you say that the earth is 6,000 years old because the Bible says so, when you say
Well,
sperm is this and embryology is this because the Quran says so, you are making a category error because the book itself is not a scientific textbook, and it should be interpreted through the, like, you should look at it as book of morality, of ethics, of guidance, of how you should live your life in the world. And honestly, from my perspective, your comments about how people who are not Muslim must have a brain defect, I thought
mhm.
was very insulting. And if so, okay, I have a question about that. Since I have a brain defect and I can't believe in Islam, will I go to hell?
So that goes back to the issue of predestination and how
Can I just
people
add
have been.
something quickly? Just
Yeah,
so quickly.
sure.
Nadia, so when you're sort of saying that's stupid, I don't think the people of the time were stupid. I think they just
Okay,
didn't understand,
do this for
modern
me. If I'm
hygiene.
wrong, if I'm wrong, I want you to do this. I want you to. I'm gonna. What we're gonna do this on video, okay? And then I'm gonna, kind of wipe my butt, and I'm going to serve you a sandwich. All right. And I want you to start a big argument, just like Jesus did over it when someone said, "Hey, dude, go wash your hands, dude." And I
Well,
want
that's
you to start the argument like Jesus did over it. And if people see that as intelligent, then I will admit I'm wrong. Okay.
first of all, that
What
wasn't
I'm
the
saying, that is stupidity. And Jesus is playing the fool for starting an argument over something so fundamentally right. Okay.
wasn't the
That is
context of
stupid.
it
Uh,
wasn't the
Okay.
context of the passage. The context of the passage was
Okay.
the
You're defending.
Pharisees were
Okay.
saying the
Okay.
context of the passage is
Yeah.
the Pharisee. Now, washing hands, I agree, is a stupid thing, but no one at the time understood germ
it's
theory.
not. There's a difference between stupid and ignorant. And I just want to
Ignorant.
add for the
Can
record,
you accept?
I think that a lot of arguments that Nadia makes comes from his butt. I just want to add that.
Okay, well, like I've shown a lot
Well,
of
I
people
think
agreeing with me in that
we
debate.
brought you up
So,
like 10
yeah.
times during the debate, Mark. So,
Okay, so
and he
then
Sorry,
used
can we agree?
Nadir
he
The
brought
brought me
person who
up.
wrote
he
this
brought you
apparently,
up as
yeah.
evidence that his arguments were good during the
Me?
debate like 10
No,
times.
no,
Oh
yeah. Well,
yeah, several
Really?
times.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Nadir,
I used
Why?
on
Nadir,
Mark.
I've
Nadir,
never thought your
Well,
arguments were
hold on.
good.
Let's
What
get
do you
back
Nadir,
mean?
to. I want
come
to
on,
see how you're
Nadir.
defending this.
Do you use the utensils when you eat food?
Do I use utensils? Sure, but let's get back to the passage here, because
Yeah, so you don't
what
need to
I would
touch the food
think.
with your
Hold
hands
on a
then.
second. Hold on a second. I would think that an atheist would read what we're seeing in this passage, which Mark just read, and can come
Mhm.
to the obvious conclusion that this dude, whoever wrote this thing, didn't know the science behind washing hands. And that's why he basically fabricating things upon Jesus's lips here. Now, it's not just me, but I believe Aaron Ra also used the same argument in his debates. But all of a sudden, the people in here, these so-called atheists, really see the wisdom here. Yeah,
No,
this
I
stuff
never
makes a
said
lot of
that.
I'm
sense.
agnostic,
No,
and Isa
Yeah,
is not
this is
that's a
making
atheist
sense
straw.
to
either.
you guys, huh?
That's a straw man. That's just a straw man,
I'm not even
Okay,
an
Nadia.
I
That's
mean,
just
atheist,
a
I've
so
never
straw
met
man.
atheists who
Wait,
really read that passage,
I
and it's
don't.
just so
No, let
beautiful.
me. No. Let me steel man my
Yeah.
position because you do like to straw man it, Nadir.
Okay, this is all
My
making sense to you.
No, let me
Okay.
make it make sense to you. It has nothing to do with hand washing. The passage has to do with hypocrisy. Like you are condemning these people for not
Okay.
washing your hands, which is a rule of the men, which is a rule of the Pharisees. Because you
Mhm.
read the Old Testament, it's not as clear about a requirement to wash hands. It
But
wasn't like I don't know if it's in Leviticus or not. Maybe
mm,
somebody like Issa would know more about Leviticus than I would or Mark,
yeah.
but with all the list of the
Mhm.
rules you're supposed to comply with. But regardless of the fact that the passage is about hypocrisy, that these
Mhm.
and Joseph explained it during the debate. He said that it was about them putting all their money towards the priesthood instead of taking care of their
Yeah,
families like
yeah.
God commanded them to, which is what Jesus says later on in the passage. It's the same thing with the mustard seed. I think the mustard seed parable is a beautiful parable for
Okay.
anybody.
Let's
I don't
okay, so
So
see
let me ask you
let
answer
me
you
this.
well,
Lucian.
just
This.
before you do,
Answer,
Nadir,
can I
let me
answer
just
you real quick?
let,
Let me just
okay,
answer
okay.
very quickly. So this is called poor decision making. Okay, that whoever wrote this didn't. So he put his religious views and we start the big argument over it. But the right thing to do is that the science behind this issue should trump any of your religious convictions as being secondary and tertiary. This is life-saving science we're
It's
talking
not
about here.
science.
So when you see, yeah, when you wash your hands before you eat, this is very important from a scientific perspective. And so that should have taken precedence over any of your religious convictions. Okay. So what should have been said over here, yes, that's a good idea. Keep doing it. But just make sure you don't try to do things in a ritualistic way. Or remember, you guys also got some hypocrisy in yourselves because you guys ain't
Go
doing
ahead,
things right.
Mark.
Something like that, I
No, we
would have
get it.
said, okay, no problem. This guy shows intelligence. But
Okay,
but the way it's written there, I don't see any evidence that this guy really understands the scientific benefits of washing hands before you eat. That's the problem.
okay. So I think I can sort of clarify what the problem is and the way that you're viewing it, Nadir, and the way
Mhm.
that we're viewing it. Because you're sort of going, well, you should be interpreting the scientific accuracy of this book. Now, none of us claim that the book is a scientific book. So it's like looking at a fable like when the princess kissed the frog and saying, well, she doesn't understand hygiene, so therefore it's not scientific. Nobody thinks it's scientific here. That's the problem.
If
That it
this
is
is from
just a
God,
story.
no.
Excuse me, Nadir,
Yeah.
Nadir. This is just a story to give, like a fable, to give a idea of, hey, this is hypocrisy for you to clamp down on all these things and you do the same. So
Mhm.
we're not saying, hey, this book isn't scientific, as Ozian says. It's not a case of good science or bad science. It's a case of a category error in applying a scientific value to a story that is supposed to impart morality.
I think you're forcing that stupid interpretation onto the text to cover up the mistake, which is clearly there. I think when you criticize people for not washing their hands before they eat is an act of stupidity. Now, if you want to defend the stupidity, you go right ahead. But it looks like nobody's really able to argue. See, this is not the right time and place to start an argument over your hypocrisy and things like that.
Yeah, it
It's an
is.
act of stupidity. But the real problem, remember, the contradiction is this. Look, if this is that was only the first problem here. The second problem with this passage, he says, listen, don't do it ritualistically. That's where the problem is. But wait a second, that's a contradiction. If God wants you to be healthy, yes. Does washing your hands before you eat make you healthy? Yes. Doing it several times a day, yes. Then that means God wants you to do it ritually. But that's a contradiction from what Jesus is saying. So how do you resolve this crazy contradiction?
Are you calling my interpretation that I'm lying about my interpretation? Because you
No,
sort of
I think you're trying to defend
said,
stupidity, but that's okay. Now we're moving on to the
then you're
contradiction.
no, you're saying I'm trying to defend stupidity. So
Mhm.
I am not trying to defend stupidity. I'm trying to defend that this is a category error, that this is a moral
Okay.
lesson,
Okay.
and my
Let's
scientific
put it on
claim.
video.
No, let me finish. So
I'm
are
gonna
you
wipe
calling me
my
a
butt,
liar?
and I want, and
Wait,
we're gonna start an argument over it.
are you calling me a liar that that's what I'm trying to explain?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know why you're doing what you're doing. I'm not even going there.
Why do you think I'm doing what I'm doing? Let's take a guess. Let's take a gander. Let's take a poll. Mark,
Yeah.
Mark, why do you think
Yeah.
I'm taking the interpretation I'm taking about the Bible, even though I believe it's false?
Well, I think it's your honest interpretation. I think that sort of it behooves us to be honest about, like, for instance, when people talk about in the Bible, when, it says we shall crush babies' skulls beneath our heads, that we've
Mhm.
got to understand that that's a part of Psalms. It's a mourning for the loss of Israel when they got sort of imprisoned in Babylon. Um, like, it's not actually telling them to do things. a lot of the Bible is actually stories. A lot of it is commandments. Like there's no doubt that the commandments in the Old Testament were the law for you to follow, but other parts are stories that are meant to be taken metaphorically. Now, it does come down to interpretation, which are stories and which are commandments, granted. But and I think that the Bible isn't scientific. I think that this wasn't a scientific thing. I agree with Nadir on that one. The Bible is not scientific, but I don't think any religious book is scientific.
So
I
how
do
do you
wanna-
resolve the contradiction? Can you help me resolve that? I gave you guys the contradiction. How do you resolve it?
What contradiction? I don't get the
So
contradiction.
I'll just repeat it again. So if God wants you to be healthy, yes. Does washing your hands before you eat make you healthy? Yes. Then that
Well, I
means
don't
God
believe in a
wants
God,
you.
Nadir.
What? Okay, no.
Why
From
do-
you got to be from a Christian point of view. You got to look. This was a
I can
Christian
just
Why?
wash my
scientific.
hands. I can just wash my
Yeah.
hands after I go to the washroom.
So
Hey,
my
That's where
question here
whenever
is
you-
that
your
would
hands are
mean
dirty.
God does want you to wash your hands ritually, but the Bible says God doesn't want you to wash your hands ritually. So how do you resolve that contradiction?
Where does it say that the God wants salvation for your soul? It doesn't say it wants you to live as long as possible. I mean, it does, like it even says your life is like dirty rags. There's parables to say that it's more important to live your life well than it is to live your life in such a way. And if you go back to other philosophical concepts, like from the Stoics and stuff like that, like health is a thing that is good, positive. You want to be healthy, but you shouldn't like be unhappy because you're not healthy. But I do want to give. So I think you're straw manning my position. So there's no contradiction
That's
in
not
my
your
argument. The contradiction is in your own personal interpretation of it, which means you believe it's false. So, in my understanding is this is not a book about how to live the healthiest life. This is a book for your soul, for salvation.
And I'll just read out the last passage where it says, like, are you still so dull? Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? That the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defiles a person, but eating with unwashed hands does not defile them. He's talking about spiritually, not physically.
But how do they resolve the contradiction which I just gave you guys?
Well, it depends on what the Christian actually believes, because if they say, hey, it is the sins that are the thing that we have to worry about, it's basically saying don't sweat the small stuff, right? It's basically saying don't worry too much unless it is
Which
a
is a scientific error.
evil thought.
Washing your
Oh,
hands
sure.
before
Yeah,
you
no,
eat is not a
I
small thing.
agree. But see, the thing is, you're asking me to think as a Christian, and a Christian may say, well, this life, it matters what you do more than how healthy you are. It like matters whether it is the next life that you'll be judged by. So it's way more important to, not murder and not commit adultery than it is to follow every single small law. And I agree that's unscientific, but I'm not claiming that it's a scientific book. If a
Okay.
Christian claimed it was a scientific book, I would argue that with them.
Okay, so somebody said in the debate
Well,
that they're going to defend
I want to fix
this passage here. All right, they were going to defend the hand washing stuff, and I don't think that's happening here tonight. We can all see
no one
there's
said they were
problems
going.
here.
No one said they were going to defend the hand washing stuff. They said they were. No
Okay.
one actually said anything like
Right.
that. You just misinterpret what it's supposed to mean. You straw man the position, and I just want to point out I don't believe it's a scientific error. I think it's a moral question about your values. If you value human well-being, then you ought to follow the CDC guidelines about washing hands. So it's very good to see that the deer is like following secular humanism in that regard. He's looking out for people's
Do you mind
health
if I
and
jump in?
well-being as a secular
Hold on.
humanist.
Let me ask one
Yeah, I
question.
want to let
Ozzy, and then you
Ethan
can jump.
time
But can I ask
talk
you
too.
one question? I want to ask you one question,
well
Ozzy.
after Isa.
Can you see from this passage that apparently the author seems to be ignorant of the benefits of washing hands? Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
That's a non-sequitur.
Thank you.
It doesn't make sense to me only if the benefit is about human well-being, if the benefit is about the salvation of the soul, then there's no error in the passage.
On
So
this very point, if I could just say, you seem to be calling it a contradiction, and in order for it to be a contradiction, you'd have to do an internal critique, and it seems to me you're doing an external critique. So there's no contradiction.
So I want to jump in on
That's
this.
just logic. I'm sorry, Nadir. You've kind of failed at 101 logic here.
So I want to jump in on this point here. So this is important to acknowledge and examine. The thing is, we have to look at Hebrew culture because that's the element of what's going on here. What is, the big JC? What's he talking about? He's engaging the Hebraic narrative of the time. So we're dealing with Abrahamic traditions. We're dealing with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. That's the narrative that we see. And Islam definitely mirrors a lot of the kind of Jewish Hebraic practices. So Jewish people, if you look at things like ablution, wudu or ghusl, you have the same type of stuff in the Hebrew tradition. You have a washing ritual before you eat. In the Jewish tradition, you always do that. You have to wash your hands every single time, and it's a spiritual purification activity. It isn't like, it's not dealing with germology. It has nothing to do with that, like the germ theory. I would agree and reinforce the position. This is spiritual purification. When you're doing an ablution like a wudu, you're doing a spiritual purification. It's not about you have to wash your hands with soap. You're doing the spiritual purification to wash yourself of all the negative things that you've done during the day. That's why you do it before you make salat, before you make prayers. You do this water ritual purification. Jewish people do the same thing too. In the conversation with Jesus, Jesus is a mystic. We have to look at him as a spiritual mystic of the time. A lot of the stuff he says comes from a mystic's point of view. So if you study mysticism, he fits perfectly aligned with that. So for example, you have this situation of like the mustard seed and the ritual purifications. He's challenging the people of the time as a spiritual mystic, similar to someone like Mansur al-Hallaj, who is challenging the kind of Muslim narrative around him, or Rabi of Basra. These same folks challenge the spiritual narrative of the time and say, hey, what's going on here? You guys aren't getting it right. You're so focused on these rituals that you're not getting the spiritual understanding. So Jesus is doing the same thing, where he's challenging the people around him according to the New Testament narrative, where he's like, look, you're saying, hey, you're saying this, you have to do this washing thing. That's not the important point. The important point is being connected to God. It's not about doing these empty rituals. That's my understanding in a limited capacity of these things.
Yeah, and what I'm saying, I just want to wipe my hands with my butt, and then I want somebody to come and say, he's going to say, come, dude, go wash your hands, dude. And I want you now to use
Jesus
the same
doesn't say wash your
argumentation
hands with the butt,
that you
no.
find in the New Testament, and let's see what people will say. Dude, you're stupid. What are you talking about?
Hold up.
That's my point.
Hold
If
up.
you try this same type of logic in the real world, everybody will be like, what the hell's wrong with this guy? He's making a big argument and some kind of dissertation on when you should be washing your damn hands. That's gross. So
Sorry,
yeah, I mean, it's all beautiful.
Where does
but
it say in the
if you-
Bible that? Where
yeah.
does it say in the Bible that Jesus advocates for not washing your hands after wiping your butt? Could you just
Well, Simon,
tell me where that passage is, please?
Okay.
Are you a
Okay.
Christian by any chance, Simon?
It doesn't
Simons?
matter. I'm asking you a question.
Okay. Well, we've had a debate on this. I don't know if the people want to
No. Where does
continue
it
on
say
this
in the
or
Bible? Where does Jesus say that you should not wash your hands after wiping your butt?
well, no, I didn't say Jesus said that.
Okay,
I'm
so you
saying
admit
what
then-
if I were to do that?
So
and
Jesus didn't say that.
But did he
Okay.
start an argument over people not washing people told him, dude, go wash your hands, man. And he started an argument about
Wash.
that. Is that a true or
Look,
false
like I
statement? Am I
said to you
misrepresenting the
before.
Bible?
And like I said to you before, if you want to do an external critique, by all means, go ahead and do
You're
that.
not answering my
But you
question. Did he
need to
start an
show a
argument?
contradiction. You need to show a contradiction.
I'm showing
And you
stupidity.
haven't done that because you're not using the
Okay,
Christian
I
worldview.
did show a contradiction, but nobody.
You are
Okay, I
not
will show you a
using
contradiction.
the Christian worldview. So if you could
Simus.
tell me within the Christian worldview where it says that Jesus says, worry about germs, don't wash your hands.
Okay, you
Because
asked.
I don't
The
think
first
it's in
point
there.
was to show.
I don't
You
think
asked.
that's in there.
Okay, the first point was you asked me to show you a contradiction, and I did show nobody had an answer for the
Within the
contradiction.
world Christian worldview, you're not using
Okay.
the Christian worldview.
Does God want people to be healthy? Yes.
Not within the
Does
Christian worldview.
yes,
No,
within the Christian
Jesus
worldview.
says, "Come,
Hold on.
you can only get to the Father through the Son."
Let me show you the
That's the
contradiction.
Christian worldview.
Let me show you the contradiction. The contradiction is, does God want you to be healthy? Yes. Does washing your hands
No,
several times a day
no,
make
Where's
you
it
healthy?
say?
no.
Where's
That's
Yes.
your assumption. That's your interpretation of the
Your
Christian
body, the
worldview.
temple.
It's not. It's okay. Yes, spiritually, yes.
And it's not talking about really
Did
taking
Adam
care of
die on
yourself.
that day? Did Adam
Okay.
die on that day
Once you
when he ate the
deny
fruit?
the
Did
fact that
Adam
God
die on the
doesn't want you to
day?
be healthy, the Bible's
I
been
don't think
disproved.
so.
No need to go any further. Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
you
Wait,
don't
hold.
understand logic, though. That's the problem. You're failing
Once
because you're
you
trying to
accept,
say
okay,
something outside the Christian worldview is a contradiction. And that's
okay.
simply not the case. Within the Christian worldview, it's very plain that Jesus says, "I talk to parables, not so people will understand." You're
Yeah.
one of those people that are never going to
But
understand
I don't think
because
Nadir's a
you're not a
Christian.
Christian.
Once you conceded that no, God doesn't want you to be healthy, then the debate is over, and I no
No, it's
longer need
not
to use
over.
this.
God
Either he
wants
does or
you.
he doesn't.
No,
The
God wants
debate's
you.
actually not over. I have a question, if I may,
God wants
Nadir.
you.
Okay.
God
I
wants
guess not.
you to be saved and to
And
come
I've
to
got something
heaven. Okay,
tangentially
you need
related.
to repent from your sins, accept Jesus Christ into your heart, right,
Mhm.
and be saved.
Yeah.
That's
What
the
about
Christian worldview. And if you
what?
don't do that, then you are filthy as rags.
Mhm. What
So
about all
I
the
want to
scientific
address something really
catastrophes?
quickly, Nadir, something that's
Yeah.
really important to me, which is
Yes.
you keep lying and saying that I conceded our debate. Where did I concede our debate? This is a
No.
lie.
No. I never said that. I said, here, let me. I shared the email, and I'll share it again. So listen, I said,
Wasn't
Mark
from
Reed.
me.
Mark.
Wasn't
Okay,
from
let me tell
me.
you exactly what I
It
said.
wasn't my email, was it, Nadir?
It
Okay,
was a
I
clip from Matters Now that he
thank
took
you.
that,
Thank you.
and
You
he
were
sent it
there.
to the
Well,
Kentucky
he shared
Atheist.
somebody else's email,
Hold on a
Yeah, you
second. You
responded
can
to.
I
not
respond?
mine.
Mark, let me explain to you. All of what I have did today, I have forewarned you. In the video clip, I asked you about if Muhammad corrected the scientific errors of the Bible, which you conceded to that. And then after that, I said, you know, Mark, I will use your statement for proselytization purposes. And I made
That doesn't
everything clear
mean
to
I
you.
conceded our debate.
I made
That
every
doesn't
okay.
mean it.
Do you want
Our
to play the
debate was
video?
not our
Ozian, can
debate.
you play the
Our
video?
debate, excuse me, our debate was not whether Muhammad had corrected any scientific errors.
Okay,
That was
that's
not
fine.
our debate. And I did not concede that in the slightest. So if you said that, you are lying. You
Can
are
we play the
just outright lying.
we could play the video. It's all caught on video. Let's
We've
So
seen
see
what's your
that
who's a
before.
liar.
what's your position, Mark? So you're saying that yes, the Quran, if you follow the teachings of the Quran, there are some better teachings that increase well-being than what you would get if you followed the Bible. Would that be your
My
position?
position is that the Quran may have, and I'll say this explicitly: the Quran may have had stuff in it that is closer to scientific understanding over the last 600 years, but it also gets other things wrong that the Bible got right. So when
Look,
he says, "Oh, that Muhammad corrected all of this," no, that's not what I conceded at all.
can we play the audio?
And I didn't even go for it. Play it.
Ozian, are you able to play the audio if I give you the
Share,
link? I
or
don't even know how I
share
can
it.
do it. Let me
Just go
okay.
present, and
I'll put it in the comments here. Let's see if I can do that. The issue
Why
tonight, it's
you
not.
guys? Why you
Here's my
guys are doing
point.
that? Why you
Here,
guys are doing that? I just
here's my
say,
point. I'm sorry.
okay, go ahead. If you
It's
have a
not
point.
just Mark. It's a Kentucky atheist. It's a whole slew of people who
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 looked
haven't
aren't
at
got
it.
here?
I think of the debate I
is
had
he
with
here?
Ozian.
Is he here?
They're all coming to the same conclusion
Yeah,
that
I had a
yes,
debate with another Muslim, and
No,
he said to me that there's a lot of metaphorical meaning within the Quran, which explains why the contradictions aren't contradictions. Now, I'm sorry, Nadir, but that means Islam is incorrect, and you don't accept that, obviously, because you don't understand things. Like, well, you've already shown that your logic is subpar. Now, do you think that's a good argument, Nadir? If not, would you stop doing it to Christians?
Okay, no, I'm not, because it is very clear that Muhammad is correcting the scientific mistakes of your book.
Did
Watch the
humans
debate.
evolve? Did humans evolve?
It got the resurrection wrong. Muhammad literally got the resurrection wrong. Right? He
Nadir,
had to
did
make up. He had to make
Okay,
up some
so
ad
can
hoc
I
reasoning
quote?
in order to justify why Jesus wasn't crucified. That's ridiculous.
Can I quote Nadir directly from the debate? He said Mark conceded that the Quran corrected 6 scientific errors in the Bible
Yeah.
and that it is miraculous.
No, I
This
said that
is a
it's not
miraculous.
miraculous. The
No,
text,
no. You said what you said in the debate, and I just watched it. Was Mark conceded that there were 6
no,
scientific errors at the Quran thing, and it was miraculous.
I said it is not. I shared my screen. I showed the
No, you didn't.
email, which I did. Let me. Can I share my screen over here? I'll show you exactly what I showed. The email which I sent. Let me
You
pull up
shared
my
a
exact
screen of our
references.
stage here.
I said multiple times the atheists are saying that this is not miraculous, but they do accept that. In fact, this is. I'm going to share exactly what I stated here. Let
So
me hit
you mean
present.
so you may have misspoken, but you didn't mean to say miraculous if that's
Yes,
what
but
If
Mark
I
said.
the
did
dodgy
misspeak,
way that it's the dodgy way that he talks. And
Yeah.
let
Can
me
you guys-
just grab the current time, and I will share my screen to show what Nadir actually said and the way that he conflates what he says to make it look like, he
Okay.
wants you to believe that we've conceded to everything that he
No,
said
no.
because
After
he's
that, can
being
I ask my question?
insanely dishonest.
Can you allow me to defend myself here? Can you share my screen, Ozian? So I have I shared the exact email in which I said that Islam corrected 6 scientific errors of the Bible. Mark also pointed out that it doesn't prove it to be miraculous. That's what I shared this like 4 or 5 times in the debate. I made it very clear. Mark also pointed out that it doesn't prove it to be miraculous. Now you can see that clip. Now I believe it to be miraculous. Maybe I might have said and he agreed to correct a 6 scientific error of the Bible, and that's miraculous. But I didn't mean to say Mark said that, so I might have misspoken that. But I made it very clear when I shared what I did right up here. Now look at what Joe says. I agree with what Mark said in that clip. So let's be clear on what was said and what was not.
Okay, let's listen to what Mark wants to show.
Okay. He says, I agree with Mark in that clip
Well, this
that
is the
yes, the
same
Quran
thing.
is correcting the errors of the Bible. This is an astonishing miracle, but they're saying we don't think it's a miracle.
Do you hear that?
Please continue, but they're saying we
And
don't think
this
it's
is
a
an
miracle.
astonishing miracle. Okay,
Well, it
continue.
could happen, I didn't mean to, so that's just the only part. That's where the partial endorsement. Stop cutting off the clip when I'm saying it's a partial endorsement when I said, but they don't think it's miraculous. So I made it very
No,
clear.
you
I
didn't
made
say
it
that.
100 times clear. Okay, look.
We want to play it again.
Ozian,
I might
play
have
the clip
misheard.
again.
Oh,
Let's listen to the whole thing.
okay.
Well, I
Stop
couldn't tell
cutting
if
it
you
off the
were
clip.
talking. Just okay. No talking this time.
I'll have to find it again.
Play it again and stop cutting
I
it
don't
off.
think it matters too much. Even so, you didn't mean to say, but I do think it's dishonest to say that he's agreeing with like your argument because no atheist
has
is
before.
agreeing with your argument. Maybe there are some atheists.
Right.
Let me put this into context. If I showed up to a debate and said, Islam is false because humans evolved from other forms of apes, would you say that would be a fair argument?
Islam is false because other people. I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh my God.
Because humans evolved from other life forms, so Islam is false. Would you say
No,
that would be a fair argument?
I wouldn't think that's a fair argument.
You would say it was a fair argument?
No, I wouldn't think so. No.
Why?
Well, there's a lot of things you can, that's just an opinion you've given.
If evolution is true, okay, so do you hold that humans evolved?
My personal belief, a little bit, maybe. Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Islam and humans. No, that Adam and Eve were not the first humans.
Well, I don't believe they were the first humans, right? The Quran doesn't say that.
Okay, so they evolved from other other like hominids?
It's possible.
Okay, so if I did, okay, that's fine. But if I showed up to a debate, because a lot of people, lot of Muslims interpret that humans do not involve. So if I showed up in a debate and said that Islam is false because humans evolved from other hominids, would that be fair?
No, because we can't prove
Oh,
that.
why
really
is it
prove
not? What? No, I can show that humans evolved from other hominids.
I don't
So
think
why would I can show evidentiary information just like you do for germ theory? You know, there's people that deny germ theory because we have a problem in science with induction and showing direct causal links between things. So there are people that deny germ theories exist, and there are people that are actual scientists that deny it. I think they're wackadoodles, whatever you want to call them. But it's this beside the point. There are people that do believe that it is false. So if I showed up to a debate and I argued that evolution is true, humans evolved from other hominid species, and the planet's been around for billions of years, Big Bang cosmology is true, all that, and so that means the Quran is false because the Bible does not explain how the universe formed. Would that be a fair argument for a debate? If it's not a fair argument, please explain why it's not a fair argument.
somebody. I'm sorry, I'm a
Why?
little bit burned out.
I can tell you why it's not a fair argument. It's not a fair argument for the same reason your argument against Christianity is not a fair argument.
Sweet. Can I ask Nadir my question now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Go.
So, Nadir, you said that God wants humans to be healthy. I think I heard you say that a few times.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's a desire of God that humans be healthy.
Yeah.
So then why did God create a world with sickness and disease?
Well, there's always evil in this world as well, but there's also a test. See, the thing is, when I was pointing out,
the Gnostic God is the true God. That's why.
so the Bible and the
Gnostics believe
Quran,
is more
the
correct. That's why.
the purpose behind the Bible and the Quran, God is to teach man how to live their life, and part of that teaching is for you to live a healthy, good life. And that's where the contradiction comes in, because washing hands is how you get to that point. And if you do it ritually, you're going to get God will want you to wash your hands ritually. But the contradiction in the New Testament is that Jesus says God doesn't want you to wash your hands ritually. That contradiction cannot be resolved.
Yeah, but there's some
So
people who
you said
can't
that
wash their hands.
you said that sickness is evil. Who created the sickness?
Well, ultimately, God is the author of all, is the creator of everything. He's a creator. But that
who
doesn't
creates
answer my
evil?
question.
I didn't
So
hear
he
you ask a
creates evil.
question.
Well, my question is, if from God wants you to live a healthy life, that's a prescription of the Bible. And of the Quran. And I keep repeating it, and it looks like nobody has an answer, so I have to keep repeating it
Well,
again.
no, I just
Yeah.
you made that claim, and then I made the claim that, well, it doesn't seem like God created the world to be very conducive to humans
No,
being
that's an
healthy.
atheist point of view. That's an atheist. Well, I tell you what.
No, it's not. That's an
I gotta
objective
get.
fact. There are
It's a
humans that
Gnostic
are
point
not
of view, too.
healthy.
Okay. Well,
Gnostics.
They're born unhealthy.
And I'm wondering myself, like if it's a test, you have people with no choice over whether they're healthy or not. Like if a child gets leukemia,
yes, right.
how is that a test of that person's character?
So you're saying that there's no test for him? Is that what you're saying, or?
Well, you said that it's a test. It's partially a test for people that they have to sort of, live healthily. But I'm saying that 6-year-old with leukemia, no matter how healthy they live, they're not gonna be healthy.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's not a test. That's an infliction on somebody.
That's where predestination comes into place. And you should see what scientists say about predestination. A lot of scientists believe in predestination.
What
in fact,
do you
I think
say?
No,
yeah,
they
well,
believe in they believe in determination,
Determinism,
not
yeah.
predestination. Determinism is
Okay.
different from
Well, let's see
destiny.
what they say.
Destiny means, well, let me finish my point because you're wrong. I don't care what some scientist says. That's appeal to a false authority, because scientists are not authorities when it comes to these philosophical concepts between destiny and determinism and stuff like that. Science talks about determination, like everything's either indeterminate or determinate. Fundamental to reality in science is quantum theory, which is indeterminate, which means it's not deterministic. But destiny is about specific moments in history that are destined to happen, but the little stuff in between can be through free will. So if you actually like engaged in this concept and studied the concept of free will versus determinism versus destiny versus these atomism, all these different concepts, you would know that destiny was different from determinism.
Okay, that's fine.
But you shared a
Well-
screen. We can look at your.
Well,
screen.
I don't get how predeterminism even addresses that, you know, a 6-year-old has leukemia as a test. I don't get how that addresses this.
Yeah. So there are things in what I believe, there are things which we don't have control over. There are people who are born who have a predisposition to being psychopaths, and that is the way they
God
are.
has control over it, though, right?
Yeah.
God has control over that.
And God
Yes,
knows
God
that
has
it's going to
control over that.
happen.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah,
he?
so
Does he
why does
decide
God
how
permit
it's
it?
going to happen?
Some people are just, there is an issue of predestination, but the thing which I wanted to just, because I got to get going now.
This is
I'm
determinism.
super tired. But what I wanted to make it clear,
And he's
you
not
know,
a
I have
scientist. He's a
about
philosopher.
Mark was asking, I mean, the things which I came into this room for, well, I thought I'm going to hear a great defense to this washing hands garbage, but I kind of heard what you guys are
You
saying.
did.
Mark thought I misrepresented him. Mark, I got you on audio. I'm sorry, on video. Other atheists listened to the clip, like the Kentucky atheists, and seem to have agreed with what you said. Everything is documented. Nobody misrepresented you. And what I'm leaving this room with is an understanding that atheists are agreeing, not all, but a lot of them are agreeing that Muhammad did correct the 6 scientific errors of the Bible. And like I told you, I will be using it for
Okay.
proselytization
So
purposes.
stop
Okay.
saying that Mark agreed and conceded to me in our debate, because I did not.
Okay,
That
I
was
won't
not
use
the
those
debate
words.
topic. And stop conflating the idea that just because I agreed that the Quran got some things right that the Bible did not, doesn't mean that I'm conceding that it is some way miraculous or is in
No,
some way.
I shared
No.
my screen 100 times showing
The
that.
phrasing that you often use, and now this might be by mistake. Okay, you said, "Hey, I misspoke." The phrasing that you use is very suspicious, because you kind of say, "Well, Mark conceded the debate to me," and I've heard you say that before. So stop saying that.
No, what? No, you're being stupid, Mark, because I'll tell you why. I shared my screen 100 times,
Am I?
and I
I
stated
don't know why
very
you need to
clearly,
insult people, Nadir. I mean, I'm not.
because you can't read what's on the screen. That's why.
Nadir,
When
Well, I
I
can just
made,
call you
hold on,
stupid then.
let
I'm
me
just
finish
gonna
my
call you
point.
stupid then. You're
Hold
stupid,
on.
Nadir.
I'm
Shut
going to
up.
But
call
you
you
don't know
stupid
what a
for not
contradiction
being
is.
able to
this
read
is
it.
my. Hold on,
Okay.
my
I'm going.
stage.
Yeah.
My stage. Nadir, I can see a lot of negative things about you, about your whole
That's
argument,
fine.
about your whole debate. I don't do that because I respect my interlocutors, which you
Okay.
do not do. No one should debate you because
Okay.
you don't
That's
respect the
fine.
stage.
That's
You
fine.
Yeah, he's
literally said,
dishonest.
wait,
Now let me
wait,
finish
no,
what I'm saying.
I'm finished.
Okay.
No, you're going to let me finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
You
Okay, go ahead.
said on stage that I have a mental defect, that I have a brain defect. You said on stage that all Christians have a brain defect and all atheists have, and all agnostics think.
I
You
believe that,
said
yeah.
anybody but Muslims don't have a brain defect.
No, I didn't say
So,
that.
Yeah, you did. Anybody that doesn't
I,
accept that Islam is true, you said a big.
No,
you
you're
got defect.
forgetting
brain
about the
defect.
no true
Look,
Scotsman
I
fallacy.
appreciate everybody, but I'm
He's
not
made
insulted.
He's made every other
I understand you're not
fallacy in the
insulted.
book. He's bound to
Yes,
make a no true Scotsman
I
fallacy
think that
as
it
well.
says more
Can
about
I-
Nadir when he has to insult than it does about me. So
No, hold on a second.
it just doesn't worry me at all. It's just Nadir
okay.
has to resort to insults. You know, that's
Look,
his
I'm
thing.
resorting-
It
Well,
doesn't
they're
worry
worse
me.
than insults.
Can I say
Mark.
something?
They're ad homs. I
Okay.
mean,
Well,
just saying.
correct, yes.
He says I'm incapable of accepting Islam is true because I have a mental defect.
Okay, can I say something in
Yeah,
here?
yeah, he's
I have
intellectually
shared my
dishonest.
screen.
And I'll be quiet. I'm talking.
Does
He's
let me
intellectually
see.
dishonest,
Yeah.
and it's just amazing. See, this is what happens when you're intellectually dishonest. Nobody cares what you have
Okay.
to say. Nobody.
I'm not
Yeah,
even
and it
listening
only,
to
it only
you.
took these 700 years to correct the Bible, right? Why did it take you so long to correct the
Well,
Bible?
no, to be fair, it was a
Yeah.
lot of Greek thought that went
Yeah.
into that,
It
most
took
of those
you a long
corrections.
time to
Oh, and
correct
it's
the
So,
Bible.
I mean, you know, Galen
it's-
and etc., etc.,
Okay.
and
It's
Aristotle.
okay.
Et cetera,
Look,
et
I've
cetera.
said my piece.
So it's all
If you want
borrowed
to
anyway.
call me names, that's fine. I don't care. You know, I've said my piece. I dislike the way that you phrase it, Nadir. It seems like you are trying to angle towards, you know, all atheists agree with me on this, and I dislike having my name used like that because I don't agree with you. The Bible isn't scientific, but the Quran isn't scientific either, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
So
Well, now let me say something.
stop trying
I
to paint this picture of atheists
Are you
agree
going to
with me because
apologize?
we don't.
no.
Wait,
No.
are you going to apologize to calling everybody that doesn't accept your beliefs having a mental defect?
No, that's first of all, that's a mischaracterization of what I
Well,
actually believe.
what do you believe then?
First
Because
of
you
all,
did
let me.
argue that in the debate. No, I want to hear this first.
Yeah.
Before you say anything, I want you on the record here. Clarify your claim during the debate that you said these people have a mental defect that won't accept Islam.
No, I didn't say that. I'll tell you exactly what I believe.
Clarify it.
This is what I believe. You see, Ozian, I believe you have a defect in your brain in which you struggle to decipher between what is an interpretation and what is a fact, and that the facts. And then what happens is in the defect in your brain is that you look and you follow the interpretation and you discard the facts. So that's what leads people to believe Jesus is their Lord and Savior. But my
What's one
brain
of
works
these
very
facts?
different. My brain focuses on the facts and I throw away
What's
the
the facts?
interpretations. Your brain goes the other way.
What,
Thank you,
what's,
Nadir, for your. I kicked them. I don't need that.
well, I just want to know an example of one of these facts because a lot of the time people say, "Oh, this is a fact," and it's not. A fact is a sort of agreed upon, agreed upon objective thing that cannot be interpreted. Like if there is a pen on my table, that's a fact. You know,
I kicked
it's
them.
not up for interpretation. It's not subjective.
So he didn't leave for anybody that aren't clear. I just kicked them because I'm not going to. Anyways.
Well, I also would like to know how he knows there's has he got any kind of evidence to back up that that Ozian has defect? Is there any kind of I don't know.
He won't answer your questions to distinguish between a fact or not. And that's not my claim. I understand the difference between a factual claim and something that's supposed to be what's the word I'm looking for?
Well,
a parable to try to teach a story or something like that.
Yeah,
a moral lesson.
Let's just say a couple of other things as well here. Firstly, his arguments are replete with informal and formal fallacies, which to me shows that he has a weak grasp of philosophy. And then secondly, you know, his interpretation of an argument seems to be lacking somewhat. In fact, the very idea that he studies what interpretation is through philosophy seems to be in question because he says such things as your view is wrong, mine is right. It's a fact, right? Now, if that isn't the classic Dunning-Kruger, I have no idea what is, right? So again, I just feel that there's a large amount, right, of shall we say delusion going on when somebody comes in and claims infallible knowledge, which seems to be what he is equating the word fact with.
Well,
and
I think
we've all been there, and
we've
I
had
mean,
Dr.
even Descartes used to have a problem with it. So
look,
if he's saying he's better than Descartes, okay, great, but I don't think so.
Just for the record, I think you shouldn't have kicked him because you know it was actually funny to see him say, "No, I never said that you had a defect," and then proceed to go on to say, "You have a defect in your." Like he basically said, "No, I never said that," and then said it again. It's absolutely ridiculous. And maybe he didn't say it absolutely exactly, like he didn't say the exact words, but he said the same thing again. You have a defect in your head that prevents you from understanding something.
Well, I told him, before you continue, I want you to basically apologize for what you said on stream. So if you didn't see
Okay.
that, please clarify your position. So if you
Well,
didn't apologize for calling everybody, basically claiming everybody had a mental defect, I'm sorry. He can go. But Dr. J's
Your
been here a
room,
long
Ozin.
time.
well,
Your-
he also
He's
said
not
stupid.
honest.
He also said stupid a number of times,
That
and
I don't care
clearly
about.
that isn't the case, especially in a room like this when you're talking to people that are highly educated. Speaking of highly educated people, Dr. J.
Yeah.
Hey guys, am I echoing like crazy?
No.
No.
No, you're good. You're good.
Good. Well, I love me some Nadir debates. Not so much. I always get stuck with Nadir on the same thing, and that is he thinks you can read something or listen to something and not have interpretation. That is
Right.
not possible. It is impossible. Everybody interprets everything. Cannot be done. Hermeneutics are being applied to everything ever read or ever said.
Yeah,
and
but
he'll
that's
say,
okay.
I don't do it. You're doing it. And I never
Mhm.
do it. And I just like, if you think that is even possible, we're kind of done, because that is impossible.
Right.
And that's part of what
I agree.
I get frustrated with Nadir about. You guys probably already talked about it. I'm probably just retreading old ground or whatever, but that is one thing that really
Nobody
frustrates
interprets
me.
things correctly,
Well,
but
that's
him.
why nobody wants to debate him too. Usually, most people avoid debating him unless he really challenges them.
I would
outright,
definitely
or you
debate
really
Nadir.
want
That would be
to-
fun.
Well, you
I
should
thought-
challenge him then.
You
Maybe.
debate him on morality because he had no answer to your simple question.
Yeah, that was.
I
that
would
was
even
good,
debate
Rio.
him,
That
and
was really
and
good.
I'm not a good debater. I would even debate him because
But
I
I
would just
wanted
sit
to
there
say-
and let him dig a hole for himself.
I wanted to say to Mark, the reason that he's the kind of person that would deny, oh, I never said that. That somebody said, that somebody called you. I didn't do that. And then do it again, 20 minutes later or something. Nadir is not a very self-aware person. That is immediately obvious to me. He is not, and I don't mean self-aware in the literal sense of the, awareness of yourself. I mean self-aware in the sense that he doesn't think about his own actions, and he doesn't really
Right.
analyze and criticize himself and his own thoughts and his own actions. He's just kind of the guy that's always in the right. He's not a self-aware person. And that leads to people doing things like
he's
that.
not-
Denying that they insult people and then insulting them 20 minutes later.
Right.
Or
Right.
2 minutes later. I mean,
Yeah,
He might-
He didn't even apologize after he called the guy a d-bag in
yeah,
the
a
debate.
douche,
He didn't even
yeah.
apologize after.
Really?
Jesus.
Wow.
Yeah, he didn't even
I
apologize.
wanted to come in and say that the main thing I thought about that debate was it was a game of top trumps for religion cards, right? Your religion says X, right? And my religion says Y. X beats Y. Next point, and he just wanted to go on to the next point and play another card. Oh look, I've got I've got like 80 horsepower. Yours is only 58 horsepower. I win. Right, next point, I've got and there was no substance to it. There was no kind of real understanding or trying to do, like I was pointing out, internal critiques. Right, and say,
Right.
look, there is a contradiction in Christianity. The contradiction is between this and this, right? Internally.
And
Right,
you also
not
have to,
externally. I mean, that is nonsense, right?
you
Problems
also
from
have to
evil.
you also have to fairly demonstrate your interlocutor. That's been the issue. Having hung around a lot with Brother Nadir, is this issue with that he is not really being fair to his interlocutor. If you're going to talk about Christianity, you need to fairly represent Christianity from the Christian perspective. You can't say, I'm going to use this kind of Sunni Muslim perspective and project that onto Christianity. I don't think that you're going to have any fair conversation with that. And I think it doesn't work in having a healthy conversation. You have to look at them
sad.
from that perspective, not what you think about Christianity.
Yep.
How do Christians feel about Christianity?
Mm.
And that's the only way we can have that conversation.
Yeah, and also he liberally sprinkles in, when interpreting his own book, Presentism, and he refuses to take any kind of metaphorical meaning to adjust the Bible or Christianity to a modern day view in the same way. So it's very disingenuous, and that's why people are saying that he's a liar. I don't think he's lying. I think he's just being. I think he's being disingenuous.
I wanted to say one thing to you too about what you just said. As a person who studied Islamic theology, there's this crisis that I see within the Muslim community where there's this situation of, and a lot of Muslims do this, where they call the Testament and the Hebrew scriptures tahrif. Tahrif means corrupted, that these texts are corrupted. This is a very problematic position for an Islamic tenable position, because what you're saying is you have a theological crisis if you take this position. You could say, hey, I don't know what it means for Jesus to be crucified. This doesn't work with my theology, but I don't understand the New Testament. You can't just deny it outright. Because in the Islamic creed, you have to believe in the New Testament, and you do have to believe in the Hebrew scriptures, the Injil, the Zabur, and the Torah. You have to believe in these texts. That's a part of the Islamic Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah creed. You have to believe in these things. So if you just say, oh, I think they're corrupted, well, then you face a crisis. You face a theological crisis with God, where you say God is either a deceiver, God is this deceiver that's messing with people's heads, or you deal with this situation that God is weak and God doesn't have control in this situation, and just, God can't protect God's words. That's a very problematic position. Either of these positions it's like a theological crisis. And you basically are throwing God under the bus. And are you willing to play that game? And I see a lot of Muslims playing this game where they're like, yeah, it's actually, it's written in the heaven or something. I'm like, that's nonsense. But then everything else has to be literal. I'm like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It just doesn't work that way.
I want to address a couple of questions in the audience. Somebody said it's all white men on the panel. They're all men, I think. But
boy, I am not motherfucking white. I don't know who you think you talking to, but it sure as hell ain't me.
Your face is definitely frozen though, Leo, but that's okay. We heard you.
And I don't think Issa would claim to be white. I don't think he would make that claim.
I think Leo and I could be cousins.
The whitest person on the panel though is definitely Simus because he's British.
I don't know. I've had several people say that I was born black, so
I'm told I'm a born again Jewish person, Nephilim. So
I'm literally Leo. I'm literally that funky that people said you may as well have been born black.
Somebody also asked about female debaters. There are several. Well, I shouldn't say several. Like in the community, it's a small percentage, but there are several females that get out and debate.
Bruno Mars wrote a song about it, I think.
About females debating?
Yeah, I think that was the line. Can't remember exactly.
Huh?
There's a joke there.
Don't worry, it's a
clear
joke.
over my head.
It's a joke. You'd have to know the song. But
well, I just want to invite her. If the one woman, I can't remember the name now, has gone through, but Courtney, feel free to click the link and come up on stage. And Courtney, that's it, Courtney Denby.
Yeah, you can come up on stage. We'll mansplain stuff to you and overtalk you like the men we are.
But Good Sake she says she's agnostic. But a lot of
does debates.
Yeah, she does debates.
And
she's very smart.
Pretty lethal with it. Can I ask Dr. J a question about theology? Would that be all right? Don't tremble too much, Dr. J. Okay, so one of the points that was brought up by Nadir is that these parables are literal. Okay, and I seem to remember, but I don't know where it was said exactly in the Bibles, maybe in Corinthians, that Jesus spoke in parables, not to enlighten the general public necessarily, but he had secret teachings. This is a Gnostic version, right? Where he would give more advanced teachings to people that were ready for it. And that generally he spoke in parables because most people weren't ready for the truth, as it were.
That's absolutely correct. He totally said that. It's not in Corinthians. I think it's in the Gospels, but yes, he said that. I think it's in Mark.
Okay.
But That's irrelevant. But
yeah, just saying that's the point that Nadir didn't even like. I don't know why somebody doesn't just say, "Hang on a minute, that's a parable."
yeah,
It's
and
not.
the
And
parables.
somebody did say it's so it's not meant for someone like Nadir to understand.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously the parables aren't literal at all. None of that. We don't think any of those people like existed or any of those things existed. They're just like a story to tell a truth, right? Or to make some bigger meaning. So Nadir just interprets them the way he wants to and claims he doesn't interpret things. And it's just and he's sort of arguing against himself, right? Let me read this text. I'm gonna interpret my way, and then I'm going to interpret it again the way I think the Christian should interpret it, and then I'm going to tear that down. Look at how great I am, right? That's Esau saying that basically.
Classic straw man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can count. I mean, what somebody should do, Ozian maybe, is go through a Nadir debate and just break down every single fallacy, informal fallacy that he makes.
Wow,
that would be like that would be like
you only have
2-3 seconds. Sorry, stop there. That's you know what I mean.
You'd only have to do his opening because he repeats himself a dozen times, so it's not like.
There you go. Oh, Mark, you could easily do that.
But there's good arguments against Christianity a Muslim could make. You see these debates where they argue against the Trinity, they argue against the resurrection and stuff like that, and they'll argue that
they argue
Islam
against the crucifixion, which I don't get. I don't understand that at all. Like that's effectively a historical fact.
Well, there's like 6 external references. Well, no, I guess the
Gary
Quran
Habermas,
isn't a reference. Huh?
According to Gary Habermas, the resurrection is a historical fact. Yeah.
But
no, I said the crucifixion.
Oh, the crucifixion. I see. Yeah, no,
yeah.
that was one of the facts.
Muslims will deny that Jesus was even crucified, which,
yeah.
like I said, the fact that Jesus was crucified is effectively a historical fact. I say effectively because we're talking history here.
Well, yeah.
You go talk to most historians that study that time period, that region, whatever, they're going to tell you, yeah, Jesus' crucifixion almost certainly is a thing that happened. And that's because Jesus almost certainly existed. Oh!
But it's more likely we went to the moon than Jesus was crucified.
That's true.
I will agree with that. I mean, we have footage of going to the moon. We don't have footage of Jesus being crucified.
I'm just hitting all the buttons right now for the chat.
You're just trying to get the flat earthers to get riled up right now. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there are no, coins, Jesus coins, are they? So Caesar at least has coins.
But he talked about Caesar. I just want to point. You said, Dr. J, you said no one would make the argument that the parables were like factual, but in my debate with evidence of God, Charles, I think his name was, he specifically argued with me about that. Like, oh no, the mustard seed is a small seed. I measured them myself in my living room or in my kitchen.
You're right. I said I should not say no one. It's always a mistake to say no one because it's never no one. But I couldn't believe. I remember I watched that. You're right. You're completely right. And he made that argument, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness!" I couldn't believe
Poe's law strikes again.
It's an absurd argument because then you subject your claim to empiricism. Poe's law. How do you know he's a Poe? Yeah, how do you know he's just pretending to be a Christian? Like I think with that person, he just wants to be a Nadir for the Christian side because he wants to debate Nadir pretty bad. He's sending a bunch of super chats too. Nadir, you should go debate evidence of God. That's the debate you want.
Did you guys discuss how the Christian debater did? What did you guys say about that? Did you get to that, or was
why don't you start us off?
I was kind of disappointed. I didn't think he was that prepared. I feel like he should have known every single one of Nadir's points beforehand and been able to have an argument completely prepared for each and every one. So I mean, I'm not saying he was. We've had some crazy debaters on modern day debate, so it's not like he was like out to lunch bad or whatever. But I was disappointed or whatever. I feel like he could have done a lot better.
Yeah.
Would have been proselytizing, or would have been?
I think that it was more just putting the points forward as to why the Bible is true, rather than actually trying to dismantle the terrible arguments that Nadir. I mean, maybe that's the tactic, right? I mean, you're right. You're not going to win because like Nadir's never going to concede a point that he's like logically doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So maybe just saying, well, Jesus is our Lord and Savior. I mean, I tried to do that just now and just say to Nadir, look, you're going to hell because you don't believe in Jesus. So that so the Quran is wrong. I mean, that's how bad his argument is. So why not just turn it round?
You never actually answered my question too about if I would go to hell or not, but
yeah,
I don't care at this point. He doesn't answer questions. I'm straight. He's never been an honest
You
interlocutor.
guys don't burn his feet hot enough. That's why.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. He won't. It doesn't matter how hot you burn his feet. I would want to debate him.
Kind of.
If I debated him again, I would just debate him on moral. I see moral naturalism is true, and it contradicts the Quran.
But I'm not a moral naturalist. I'm a moral anti-realist.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
My mom came to join the stream.
Yeah.
Can you tell?
But we have Muslims
Hi,
on all
Mom.
the time.
She's a Nadir fan, is she?
Huge Nadir fan. Her and I are going to be arguing about it all day tomorrow, I'm sure.
And it's nothing against like Islam. It's not an argument against Islam. I'm just saying Nadir's arguments are horrible. And I studied like the history of this entire movement. It started in like the 1950s, 1960s, or whatever. This whole concept of arguing that the Quran is scientific is a new movement. It's sort of like a postmodern reinterpretation of the Quran.
I don't know about that because there was something that I heard once about when evolution was proposed. Obviously, the Catholic Church and the Christians in general, this is in the 1860s or whatever, were decrying it as false. Of course, one of the ways they did that was to call it a Mohammedan theory.
A what theory?
A Mohammedan theory.
From Muhammad.
i.e. it was compatible with what Muslims had been saying.
Yeah, because Islam doesn't contradict evolution, even though there are Muslims that do say humans didn't evolve.
Yeah, I mean, and the idea of evolution was around before Darwin, of course. Darwin was just the person who did the scientific work in order to show that it was a fact, or first show that it was a fact.
No, Max, he wasn't banned. He said he was leaving. I gave him an opportunity to correct the record, and I let him go. Bye. Like, I didn't need to hear him like tell us all we're stupid for another 5 minutes, so I just booted him. Because honestly, that's all he was going to do was spend another 3 to 4 minutes to tell us all how stupid we are. So.
Well, in fairness, he was arguing that Ozian had a defect in his head that wouldn't allow him to understand things. Like, it really was pretty insulting, really.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate, because that's where we get fascism from. That's where we get these movements like
interesting.
Yeah, because that's dehumanizing people that don't accept Islam. So it's very troubling that people would like believe those type of things. So am I less than human because I won't accept Islam? It's sort of
that was kind of the point I wanted you to make at that time. I mean, that excludes the fact that he's got a no true Scot. He's not going to make a no true Scotsman fallacy. I'm sure he thinks that some other Muslims are also defects, right? And if you didn't catch it, he said, "Oh, that's not what I said." And like, okay, here's the group that he thinks is defective, but is a Muslim, and that's what I would have wanted to press him on. And, okay, so you didn't say all, right? But what you did, that's because you think maybe some Muslims are defective as well.
He's a Muslim that doesn't know the Quran, so I have questions. Like I asked him,
that's your questions. Why did he is the way that he is? That's your questions.
So I asked him what to
So
quote the
I'm going
Quran
to take
about
off.
washing hands. I'll see you.
I'm going to take off. It's been fantastic. Thank you all so
Thanks for
much.
being here.
It's been awesome. Yeah, and I just wanted to pull Nadir up on the crap that he's been saying, but yeah. So thank you for indulging me. I really appreciate it.
I sent a super chat in at the end saying that I had you and Kentucky Atheist on stage, and he took both of you out of context. That they weren't saying his arguments were good. Yeah.
Look, I can understand like once or twice you're sort of speaking, you misspeak and you're sort of suggesting that we agree with everything that he says as an accident. Like I get that, but he does it over and over and over. I think he knows what he's doing. I strongly suspect that. That he knows what he's doing. He's trying to conflate us agreeing that the Quran corrected a few things that the Bible got wrong, and we agree with everything he's saying are the same thing. And I think he's sort of taking advantage of that, and it really does irritate me because I don't agree with anything that he says.
Yeah, it's disingenuous.
Well, really then he says all atheists think this, and I don't agree with your interpretation of it either. So it's like,
and I don't expect you to.
Yeah.
You know, like we disagree on a lot. You know, that's fine.
That's the most laughable thing, right? You're getting 5 atheists in a room gives you 5 different opinions on most subjects.
That's true.
So the fact that he's thinking that all atheists agree on any one thing, which isn't the fact God doesn't exist, is just mind-blowing to me. Absolutely mind-blowing. But anyway, you know, there you go.
Take care,
you need to
everybody.
win it. Everybody, if you're not subbed to Mark Reed, please go and sub to Mark Reed.
Mark Reed Atheism.
Oh, has he changed his channel name? Is he?
At
It's
Mark
always
Reed
been
Atheism.
At Mark Reed Atheism.
He's got a new channel. Is that what you say?
No, it's the same channel. It's just called at Mark.
Okay.
The name of the channel is Mark Reed. The quote unquote handle is at Mark Reed Atheism. YouTube, I guess, wants to do something like handles now. We'll see how long it lasts.
Oh, you can when you've got when you get big enough, they'll let you.
Like you'll notice when you read comments on videos, it's not the channel name, it's the handle, it's the at that you see, which might be the same as the channel, or it might be something different.
Wayne, are you seeing I'm a low-level bad kid's birthday party clown? And that's a good comment. I like that. I think he's talking about somebody arguing against gravity, though. But
yeah, a guy doesn't know what he's talking about clearly.
Oh, somebody's denying the Cavendish earlier today. So, like, saying that it was unnatural. I'm like, do you mean artificial? Like, it's not unnatural. I hate that distinction. I always like. Anyways, people know my view on that.
Cavendish.
You know what I was doing earlier
about
today?
Cavendish?
Yeah, a lot of people deny the Cavendish experiment.
I see.
Mass attracts mass.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah.
And they always they'll appeal to electrostatics. Now I said, well, explain the Coulomb's experiment to me and how that works and how it's different from the Cavendish experiment. And they have no answer because they don't even know what the Coulomb's experiment was that they appeal to when they appeal to electrostatic forces. It's sort of hilarious.
Because they don't understand electromagnetism.
Yeah, at all. Oh, well, then they'll think electrostatics is separate from electromagnetism.
Yeah.
Like, no, electromagnetism is when electrostatics flow. Like when you create a connection between the voltage, the potential, you get
it's like saying
it's like current flow.
It's like saying gravity has nothing to do with space-time. Like, it makes me just want to slap the fuck out of you. Like, what the fuck are you... What?
I think the problem is that they think it's... Like, they say space, and then they say time, and they don't think it's, like, the same... Like, they don't... They
I don't
understand.
think a lot of people, even your average person, understands that space
doesn't make sense, though.
physical.
Yeah, like, it doesn't make sense to normal people unless you study it, though, too. Yeah. Like, it's not like... that's one thing where I can't make... Or when they get confused about dark matter, that it's a thing, but there's theories about dark matter. But
you believe in Dr. J?
I was just gonna say I probably don't understand that well, but I do need to leave. As you can see, I'm at my parents' house visiting, so I'm gonna jump off.
Awesome.
But it was a debate with a Christian. I at least wanted to join because join and say hi to you guys and comment about Nadir. And if the next Christian debates him, I hope they do a little bit better. I'm rooting for them. So anyway, we'll talk to you guys later.
You should do one sooner or later.
We don't have a William Lane Craig level, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could think about it, but I don't know. It just I'd have to even be clear on what we were debating because he's gonna give that same presentation no matter what. So
No, don't do
Yeah.
Nadir. That's you're beyond Nadir.
yeah.
Hey, I have
We'll
an
put it that
idea.
way.
Why
But
don't
there are some PhDs in Discord, which I'm sure Leo knows a few of them as well. I'm sure that some of them would be happy to debate you on a topic of your choosing.
Dr. J, why don't we
Yeah.
do a turn the table debate? I'll debate as a Christian, you debate as a Muslim.
Oh, you will crush me. I would be willing, but I bet you would cream me. But I would try it. I would try it, but I think I
You
would
do
get
that.
smoked. But anyway, I gotta go, guys. We'll see you later.
Take care.
Piggity, peace out, my brother. You got people, motherfuckers out here calling me white.
It's time to be for me to do my show.
One thing I
What
wanted to
show?
say too. Oh,
What's one thing you wanted to say too?
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just gonna say that I just find it because Nadir has this same style every single time, where he's like,
Yeah.
I have the truth. What I'm saying is right. I am a scholar on anything I talk about, and it's like it can be a little rough. Like when we discuss the thing about the New Testament, he's like, well, it's wrong, it's false, it's bad, it's the Quran corrected it, and I'm like, but that's not even how the Quran functions as a text. It's nothing like the Hebrew scriptures of the New Testament. They're very different texts. So to say, well, the Quran is correcting these texts, you would have to then showcase how it does that. Like, for example, the way I did a comparison between two texts. So in Genesis, there's this portion that talks about the prophet Joseph, right? The Quran has a chapter called Joseph, right? And you could do a comparison. That's the closest side-by-side comparison you can make. And they're still very different texts. The Joseph of the Quran is very spiritual. The Joseph of the Hebrew scriptures is very different. In that text, it has some things in common, but it gives you a sort of historical narrative of who these characters are, who the tribes are. And also it goes into this narrative about Judah and this weird relationship he had with this other woman that he wasn't married to, and it was kind of connected to his son. It's really wild. It's a really interesting side-by-side comparison. There is a lot in common, but it's still very, very different. And to say, well, the Quran corrected the text, it wouldn't make sense because the Quran is like a Spark Notes version of it. It's a Spark Notes version where it kind of gives you the highlights of what the other text says, but it does not change or fix it. In reality, what the Quran does mostly for the Hebrew scriptures and the Testament is that it kind of allows us to kind of get a glimpse. It gives you a snapshot of what is in these texts and gives you a sort of spiritual understanding of these texts. But it's very, very brief. There's not some thorough correction. You would have to analyze how it does that. And it doesn't do that as a text. It's a spiritual text. It's not this analytical text. And it's not a historical text. And the Hebrew scriptures is much more historical as a text. It gives you times. It gives you like genealogies. And it gives you, it gives you a kind of a history, not like the history we have now, but it's more like that. So it's so weird and bizarre when he's like, it's correcting it. It's correcting washing hands. I'm like, yeah, the Israelites believed in washing hands. Where do you think Muslim got it from? They got it from the Israelites. Like, that's obvious. But there's a lot of anti-Semitism. That's another conversation in of itself. But
yeah, that's some big internal contradictions in the Quran as far as I'm concerned. That is a huge one. Yeah. Anyway,
you really can't hate Jews. I'm sorry, because these Jews gave you all the stuff. All those prophets are Jews, so chill out, bro. That's all I got to say.
Well,
they've been persecuted throughout history. Like they're the one people that have been persecuted throughout time, supposedly.
No, it's not the Muslims that that hate the Jews. No, it's not those that study Islam that hate the Jews. It's the rocks.
The rocks.
Did you like his point where he said, like, he brought that up in there in debate, saying you couldn't even get a visa to come see these sites because of your defects and being
my goodness,
that's wrong. That's wrong. I'm so sorry.
But like one of Yeah, but one of like I don't mind it too much because
That's
I'm
not a
thick-skinned
budgie.
enough.
That's a
Hey,
hold
look,
on. That
but one of Nadir's tactics is to try and demean the other person to get them angry so they can't debate him or realize that he's not making any points. Right? Oh,
that's not
just
a
Yeah, he
avoid his
wants you to call him
fallacies.
stupid. He wants you to call him stupid and
Yeah,
tell him to shut up. Yeah,
yeah,
like I
of
did.
course. Yeah, well,
He
like
wanted me to do
I
it.
just said, sorry, you're failing at logic. I mean, that's how that goes. You don't understand logic, so you know. But I
Yeah,
mean, that way he can claim to his supporters that he's won, right? Because he can just clip that bit of you calling him stupid and miss out the bit where he called everybody else stupid, And
yeah.
that's tactic 101, right? I mean, we see that from fundamentalist Christians all the time.
you guys keep calling Mary a budgie. Mary's not a budgie. Mary's
Hmm,
a Amazon parrot.
okay.
Aren't you, Mary? You're like the smartest bird in this whole house. He gets proud when I say that.
Well, okay. I mean, being British, that has a slightly different meaning, but okay.
Really?
Yeah, bird, yeah.
Oh,
A bird is a woman in
yeah.
Britain.
Yeah, in Cockney, I've heard
Well,
them say that.
she's still the smartest bird in this whole house. So
Okay. Oh dear. There we go.
I don't know if it's a she actually because she hasn't laid any eggs. You have to do like a DNA test sometimes to tell their sex.
Yeah.
I'm not going
I
to
mean,
waste
I,
money
I
on
do
that.
I do wish that MDD would stop having like these kind of debates. They seem to. I think they could do a lot better with the titles, right? If that title was either is the Bible scientific or is the Quran scientific, right? It would show up the problems that Nadir has, right? Firstly, he would only be able to do an internal critique if it was just that the Bible is scientific, right? He would only have internal critiques to do because he's not. There's no reference to the Quran. Or if it was just the Quran, okay, then he wouldn't be able to say, "Well, the Bible says this. We've corrected the Bible, therefore," right? Which is just a two quoque fallacy. So I just feel this is somewhat brought on to the debaters. It doesn't make their life any easier by having these wishy-washy like debate titles.
And there's a crisis too, Simos. There's another crisis that I brought up. The crisis of saying, of attacking these holy scriptures. If you're a Muslim, you cannot attack the Hebrew scriptures in the Testament. You can't attack these texts because if you do it, you attack Islam. That's the problem. It's a very stupid position.
There are differences
Interesting.
though, like the resurrection, the crucifixion. So you could debate whether that's true, and they do have sophisticated arguments on both sides, but we're not getting the best of the Muslim debaters.
What I'm saying, theologically speaking, it's not a good position for a Muslim to try to debate the Torah, the Hebrew scriptures and the Testament, the Gospels. It's a very bad position because what it does is it creates an instability for the Muslim position. The Muslim position is that all of these books come from God. That is the position of Muslims. Whether they want to try to, the reason, this is a modern day Muslim thing. This was not a classical Muslim thing. The modern day Muslim is like, oh my gosh, these things, I'm a literalist. So if these things go against my literalist interpretation, they have to be wrong and I have to prove them wrong. The problem is they're trying to win a battle and they're losing the war. That's exactly what they're doing here. It will destroy everything to win this battle. You're saying, oh, I want to hate these texts. Well, I'm like, these are the prophets of God. You believe these are your prophets. So if you condemn them, you condemn your religion. So you throw your religion out, but in order to fight this battle. And I tried to explain that to Nadir, but he won't get it. And when I talk to these people, I'm like, this is ridiculous. You are losing everything in this battle. That's my.
And does that include Jesus, though? If you say Jesus is a resurrected God, right? I mean, surely that's not a Muslim position to hold, is it?
It's not. The way that you can do it, there's a way to rectify it. And the way that you do it is you say, look, you can take the position of what scholars did. Say, Allahu Alam, God knows, I don't know. If this is God's words, I can't challenge God's words. They come from God. God said these are God's books. He said the Gospels, the Injil comes from God. He said that
Right. Is
the
is that
Torah,
literally what Injil means? The gospel.
Injil, it's from Evangelion. Injil means Evangelion. That's the word.
Right.
So that's the Arabic form of Evangelion, and Evangelion are the Gospels. So yeah.
Right. Specifically the canonical gospels or all of the gospels?
So this is the difficulty. This is what Muslims will do: is they'll say, well, the canonical Gospels are not the real ones, but the Gospel of Barnabas is the real one. And I think that's a very bad, flaky position to take, because a lot of people say that the Gospel of Barnabas is a forgery anyway, academically.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, look, you can say these are God's words and I don't know what they mean. And that helps you escape all of it. It's a position of humility, and you're also not doing heresy. This is a very heretical position to say God, and a lot of Muslims take this position, which I think is completely heretical to what their position is, which says in the creed, if you're taking a Sunni Islamic perspective, there's a creed. You believe in God, you believe in the angels, you believe in the books, you believe in the prophets, you believe in the power of God, you believe in the day of judgment. These are the things you're supposed to believe in, right? So if you believe in the books, these are the scriptures of God. If you say that these are corrupted books, what you do is you do a theological suicide. It's a horrible thing to do.
Well, maybe. I mean, from an atheist perspective, I think you could potentially draw lines relatively easily, because these books are so interpretive, right? And then I can't see that couldn't be a good argument for saying, well, this is why we say that this particular line in like some Christians say, was it in Mark, the last passages in Mark, last verses in Mark are forgeries, right? By textual criticism, they're not the same as the first ones. It's a different author, so they can't have all been written by Mark, right? But some Christians will say, oh no, it's more important. I mean, it's all Mark, So this is just the problem with interpretation that Dr. J points out, right? Every book needs an interpreter, because your mind is not connected to. Your mind is not omniscient. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to, isn't it?
Correct. And the thing that I would say, the issue, I'm just saying this is a crisis for Muslims. This isn't a crisis for atheists or other folks. It's a crisis for Muslims if they're saying that these are the scriptures from God. They have to make up a what does Nadir say? A wacky quacky narrative. This is a wacky quacky. If we were talking about wacky quacky things, this is a wacky quacky thing. And Christian apologists are completely right to hold Muslims' feet to the fire on this. When they keep saying it's corruption, I'm like, okay, let's grant that it's corruption. I'm a steel man your thing. Okay, it's corrupted because man corrupted it. Well, who allowed man to corrupt it? Did God, the omniscient, omnibenevolent, omnipotent power, allow this to happen? Oh, we have free will. Okay, well, what does free will mean? Does that mean I have the power? Is my will so powerful that I can corrupt God's word? Is that what you're saying? I mean,
well, that's where the anti-Semitism comes in, and that's where the But then you got the problem. How do they know that this version they believe is true hasn't been corrupted? Oh, because the book says it won't be corrupted. It's just the same problem.
Baha'i say that. Baha'i are a Muslim. In a sense, I would argue they are Muslim. Some will say they're not, but they believe in God, they believe in Allah, they believe in Muhammad, and they believe in the Quran. Baha'is believe in all three of these. So do Druze. Druze, Baha'i, and Ahmadiyya all believe in these things. What Muslims will say, well, they're not really Muslim because they believe in a prophet after the prophet. Okay, well, that's not even what the text says. The text says Khatamun Nabiyyin, which means seal of the prophets. You can interpret whatever you want that to mean. You could say, well, he's the end of this particular epoch. That's what the Baha'i say. And they say there's a new messenger with the Bab and Baha'u'llah, right? So it's very funny. And they take that position. They say, well, the Muslims are corrupted. That's why we needed the Bab and the Baha'u'llah to bring in the new age. So they're literally doing the same thing, but the Muslims say, well, the Baha'is are wrong, because we are the last thing. And I'm like, well, why are Christians wrong? Well, because they're corrupted. I'm like, dude, you don't stand on any solid ground. You're making a special pleading argument. You're saying, well, because I'm claiming this thing, thus it is true. No, you're special pleading. That doesn't make it true. It doesn't make
Yeah.
it intrinsically true, and it's problematic.
Also, I would maybe say that Jesus said something along the lines. I wish Dr. J was still here because he could correct me. But he said something along the lines of, "None know the time of the end, only the Father."
I will
Right,
come
and
like a
so
thief in the night.
yeah, so Jesus is basically saying here, until I come back, no one knows. So any claims that somebody is the last prophet just cannot be true until Jesus comes back and says, "Now's the time. Who was the last prophet? I will tell you."
Well,
I
they
mean,
reject
that's
revelation.
Christianity. So there you go.
And I
They
hear you.
reject revelation, so they don't believe Revelations is true. They just believe the Gospels of Jesus are true.
And this is the difficulty if we're playing these games where we're
Yeah.
like, well, I'm gonna say this thing is true. Okay, this thing's not true. I'm like, dude, have humility. And you come in and you're like, I'm gonna insult these texts. I'm like, dude, if Nadir wanted to attack Hinduism, he might have some ground in that position. He wants to attack South Asian culture, okay. But you can't attack Judaism. This is the thing, like the Jewish debater was not very good in dealing with this situation with
Yeah.
Daniel Hakakichu. He should have put the
David.
feet to the fire and said, dude, you attack my thing, you destroy your religion. If I was debating for Judaism, I think I would have done a much better job than the Jewish debater. You have to make the position where you're like, look, you can't attack me because whenever you attack me, it attacks you, and you're destroying your own narrative. If you say Judaism is false, then Islam is false. And that's the problem. So, well, Judaism got corrupted and Islam is so true. And I'm like, well, then what you're doing is you're making a special pleading argument. You're trying to say, well, you don't have any proof to prove that this corruption. You're just making a claim and you're making an assertion, and we're supposed to buy your assertion. Then you have to prove your version of Islam is true. Because it's not that you just have to prove Judaism is false. You have to prove your version of Islam, Salafi Wahhabi Islam, which you have in the UK. A lot of it. I've seen.
Oh yeah, tell me.
The Salafi Wahhabis who are horrible. These people want to impose their rules on everyone, and it's disgusting and evil. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They want to make people wear niqab. They want to put women. See, I'm okay if a woman chooses to do that's her business. But if you're trying to force people to do this, and you force, like, if someone's doing Ramadan, I saw a video. I couldn't believe it. Someone's fasting Ramadan, and the guy's like, mate, I see you eating. You need to stop eating. No, you need to stay at home then. And there's like this Jamaican woman, and she's like, you need to stay home. You need to stay home, and he does. He needs to take care of himself. You're not expecting everybody to kowtail to you.
Yeah. Oh no, it doesn't happen, right? I mean, like they've all got shops. You'll find the shops are still open all through Ramadan. They don't close them down,
And you shouldn't.
I would ask the shop, why are you open?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not Muslim. I'm like, oh, okay. Like when I went to Dubai, I went to Dubai like 7 times or something like that. And like they do the call for prayer, and a lot of shops will stay open that people want to go. Like not everybody that lives in Muslim countries are devout Muslims and go to the prayer.
Of course not. But
but we couldn't eat. We weren't allowed to. We had to eat in the restaurants and stuff like that. So.
Well, I like it how they employ people from other countries, right, which are not Muslims, and they're allowed to go and buy alcohol.
Yeah,
you're right. And actually, it turns out that maybe not all the alcohol is sold to non-residents.
It is. They're drinking alcohol too. It's complete hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And the thing too is a lot of Muslims during Ramadan are selling food. They sell food because they want to make that money. So I'm like, this is ridiculous. They're trying to make that dosh, right? They want to make money. So it's like, it's so.
Well, they get the kids to do it, so
I'm just like, look, if you want to do practices that help you become a better human being, all the power to you. Don't tell people how to live their life. Ozian and I are in a very big agreement. We're libertarians. I'm staying out of people's business. Stay out of my business, I'll stay out of your business. You know what I mean? But if you come into my business, we have a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you feel me, right? Like,
Yeah, I know, but like humans don't behave that way, in general, do they? Let's face it. Like we've had some major problems with like It's not even fundamentalism, just conservative, right? Conservative Islam, right? Saying things like, well, the government can't get involved when we're beating our children, right? We're correcting our children. We're not beating them, we're correcting them.
There's
Right.
Christians like down in the U.S. too that
Yeah.
make that claims that don't spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they
And
make
it gets much worse, right? Because, you know, there are things like, you know, Muslim girls are not allowed to go out with white boys. Right? That's
oh,
just
and
not. They
pardon.
will get the shit kicked out of them by their brothers if they get caught. You know.
Which is wrong. You should be able to love whoever you want. So, like, let's say a guy who's like brown Muslim.
Why come to a white country? You know what I mean? If you're just gonna go and say, right, well, actually, we just want to, you know, everybody can leave now. We're here. We're gonna get everybody from, I don't know, wherever, Pakistan, come over.
We had that
Turn it
problem in
into a
the
no-go zone.
What's his name, Sir?
Crazy.
we had that problem in the U.S. too, but you're just
It's
like everybody.
worse here, dude. Oh.
Yeah, but the U.S. has been dealing with this problem for a long, long time, and we've developed method. You are just now dealing with the problem. Like people like pretend, oh, the U.S. is so racist, but we've had a multicultural country with vast diversity for a long time. UK still the black population or the non-white population in the UK in general is still pretty low. Now in London it's changing, but the overall country's very low.
No, I mean
I would say Canada was more diverse for a longer period of time than the US. If you want to be technical here.
Yeah, that's true.
What about the underground
I moved
what about
to Canada. I was one of two people.
What did all the slaves go? Where did all the slaves go? To Canada.
Well, you can just look at the demographics and you can see that's not true.
You know,
no, it's definitely true.
Great Britain is
compared
built
to population. Like obviously, U.S. has a bigger population, so you're saying because a bigger population that means more people. Yeah,
I'm saying percent of population.
Yeah, well, Canada is way more diverse than the U.S. is.
No, it's not.
I can guarantee you that.
So, you know, one thing I was thinking about, like, I know in the UK you had David Bowie, who was involved with the Muslim woman. He was married Imani. You also have Michael Caine, who married, I think she's a Desi Guyanese Muslim woman. Yeah. And I'm like, this is fine. I think we should have intermarriage of different cultures. You know, as long as people have agency and consent, that should happen.
Imran Khan was a very well-respected person in this
country.
A
cricket player, and he married a British woman, and who cares?
And became a politician in Pakistan eventually.
He did. He was the prime minister, very big guy. And people attacked him. I think that actually hurt his marriage. They kept saying she's a Jewish woman because there was anti-Semitism in Pakistan. That's one of the things. I'm a warrior against anti-Semitism. We must fight against the anti-Semitism. We must fight against anti-whiteness. Like, I see these things all the time. I see lots of racism, like even in progressive circles, which should be like, except in DEI, we're supposed to accept everyone. And there's lots of anti-whiteness. We hate white men. I'm like, why? Why are we hating anybody? So let's not hate anybody. But they're like, well, the white man did all of this horrible stuff. And I mean, I do agree with Douglas Murray. He's right on this, where it's like, everybody did horrible things. Everybody did imperialism and colonialism. You want to say white British people did? So did Muslim people too. The Ottoman Empire was British imperialism, colonialism. It's all colonialism. Don't tell me, oh, their conquest is not colonial. It is. Maybe it's different, but it's still colonialism. So don't hate British white people and then say, oh, the Muslim were so great. I'm like, no, you went into other countries and you stole people's resources. Let's call a spade a spade.
Well, I mean, I would argue slavery is still going on in the Islamic world.
Oh yeah, definitely. I just want to say, Razor, I'm not being nationalistic. The U.S. is like 60% white. Like we have the United States when it comes to ethnic, like we even like only split it up into like 5 categories too, but the United States is more diverse. Canada is starting to get there, but compared to the United Kingdoms and most of Europe, they have very little diversity. So like the UK and London and places like that are now really grappling with these issues, where the United States has been trying to grapple with these issues for a long time. I never said that the United States did resolve all these issues, but we've been Like these have been a problem in the United States for
Well,
when you talk about.
Could I just point out that when the
I just-
Romans left, okay,
Yeah.
that's when we started becoming multicultural. We had invasions from at least 4 different groups of
But-
people.
But you're multicultural to you is people from Norway and France. We're multicultural to
no.
us as people. Well, then
No.
from where?
Well, I mean, Caribbean. We had a lot of people coming from the Caribbean, Pakistan, of course, and India.
Well, that's
especially.
recent.
No. Well, I mean, how
You said after the Roman Empire, dude.
well that's when we became multicultural, right?
But to you, multicultural was European nations.
Cultures, different cultures.
Yeah. So the
Right?
United
So we
States,
had South European people, right? The
Yeah,
culture,
that's
the
what I'm
Romance
saying.
languages, right? And we had Germans, and we
That's
had
my point.
Norwegians. Yeah,
we
right.
don't
Just
even
because
thi-
they're white doesn't mean they don't have different cultures.
Well, I know that, but we just call them all white in the
I
United
know
States.
you do. That's the problem.
We don't separate them as different cultures. See, this is what I'm
Well,
talking
they
about,
are.
people.
They're hugely different cultures.
See, in the
It's a
UK, it is a problem in the United States. In the United Kingdom, they think they're multicultural because there's Germans, French. I know, Simos. People are coming there from India now and Pakistan. I
Not
get it.
now. They have like 70 years ago.
Yeah. They've been coming for
We're generations and generations. In fact, the 1900s after the
But
First World War.
But the United States reduces everything down to skin color. We don't even care about different ethnicities
Yeah, I know.
or cultures. It's like it's just all
And
skin color.
how's that been going for you? Like, has there been any like religious wars based on different white cultures?
Well, we all
Irish,
can.
maybe versus the Italians. I don't know.
Yeah, but we don't have those wars in the United States.
You did though.
Oh,
There was a
didn't.
hell of a lot of discrimination against.
There
both
was
of those
discrimination. Yeah. Until they all became white, and then once they all became white, then it was the other groups that were the
They
bad
were
guys.
already white,
I know, but
by your definition. According to we had those
I know.
we had those battles back in the fucking 10th century,
Well, that's true. But then, yeah, I know.
and that's when real battles used to happen,
Yeah.
not this kind of like Anyway, like, it's I'm joshing to a point, right?
Yeah. But people don't see that in the United States
I
because we
think people don't
break it
understand
down like
culture.
that.
People do equate skin color with culture, and I think that's wrong.
Well, the
I
United
really do.
States has tons of different cultures, and they're regional. They're not as much about skin color as they are about regional cultures.
I think we have an obsession with race, and it's not good, and it's bad, and it creates division. And particularly as a person who's worked in DEI and diversity, equity, inclusion, I'm very sad about what I'm seeing. I'm seeing this obsession with white supremacy. Like, we're really obsessed with white people, and I'm like, that's not going to help create focus on inequity. We need to look at things like poverty, where people have lack of resources, and working on focusing on helping people integrate that way. And I think a lot of people who struggle and suffer is because of poverty. Like in the UK, I would say one of the biggest problems is the Pakistanis, the Indians. A lot of these people who come in don't have a lot of resources. So it's very hard for them to integrate. And so what they do is they get more closed off, and they're like, well, I'm not succeeding in this way. So I'm going to rely on this like religious narrative that I had from before, and I can't really integrate with the other folks there because I don't have those resources. I think that's one of the problems, and we need to work on economic disparity. I think it's a big point, and I think we also need to work on education. A lot of people we have bad education, and so we are kind of indoctrinated into certain narratives, and they're wrong. A lot of the stuff that we're being taught isn't right, and it creates more device. Like, we listen to Nadir. If we had Nadir as our professor, we have Professor Nadir teaching us about philosophy and religion.
Yeah, right.
I think we're going to have a lot of trouble. We're going to be all wacky.
I do. Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, immigrant groups tend to rely on each other because, the very nature of it is they're starting from scratch almost, or very rarely do they come in with a lot of
I think
things behind. And that's going to be the same for everybody. So
it depends on the group. Like, Ethiopians in particular, first generation, because of we don't have like a good immigration policy with Ethiopia. So it's usually educated people that come over from Ethiopia with visas. So
Mm.
I think for a while, like Ethiopian immigrants were the highest paid ethnic group in the United States. Besides white people, any other group, they were
Mm.
the highest paid group in the United States. But then after generations, then they're African Americans, and then now they identify. It's not that they identify; it's like that our culture pigeonholes them after several generations as African Americans, and those people have to like grow up with those same biases
Mm.
against them, where like their parents didn't necessarily grow up with this, even though they. So there's a coworker that he can't go. He's from Ethiopia. He can't go a week without being pulled over by the police in the DC area because he's black, and he's
Mm. Yeah.
like I don't face that type of discrimination. I just get these
Yeah. Yeah.
tickets in my
And when I was a
mail.
child, that was still going on in this country.
Yeah.
The band, I was in an all black band, and you know, basically talking to those guys, right? They're growing up, right? Every time the eldest would go out on a Saturday night, he'd get stopped by the police every single Saturday night without fail.
Yeah. But you go to like Maine, you go to like the middle of New Hampshire, you go down to like West Virginia, you go to these different parts of the United States, the cultures are I mean, they have a shared culture, like the
Of
idea
course, yeah.
of
Southern
freedom.
versus Northern, yeah.
Well, no, it's not even that. Like a shared culture. We have an American shared culture for most people, like this idea that we're a free country, freedom of expression, and stuff like that.
Well, okay.
Whether you agree or not, but that's like
Well,
a
no,
shared
it
sort of
doesn't seem
cultural
that way
idea.
on the outside. It seems
I,
very much split north, south, east, west. I mean,
oh,
those seem to be the cultural differences. You know, New Yorkers
oh
versus
no,
Californians. You know,
no,
well, that's an argument waiting to happen right there.
New
You know,
Yorkers are much different from people from Boston, are much different from people from Maine, are much different from people from Vermont. I
right?
mean, we you don't have to, so even within the North, we have cultures that are very diverse. But what the media sensationalizes is this big disparity between the North and South. But you go to Louisiana, Louisiana is much different than the state right next to it in Alabama. Is it Alabama next door? I think. Anyways, because Louisiana has this French like history
Yeah.
that creates them. Then they have different laws. Like they
Hmm.
deal with civil code. You actually have to pass a different
Yeah.
type of bar exam to
Yeah. No, I mean
become a
that
lawyer there.
makes total sense. We have a similar thing here, right? You go up
Yeah,
north, and it's got a lot of Viking history, and down, southeast
yeah,
is Saxon, Anglo-Saxon, and go out west and it's Celtic, and that
yeah.
still has lingering things in the way people express themselves, or
Oh yeah,
even some of the laws in terms of, and the names especially, right? So you're always using the baggage from previous generations, I guess,
yeah. Well,
inherently. You know,
yeah. Even like you go to Southern California. I mean, Southern California is
there you go. Yeah,
probably one of
great
the most
example. Yeah.
diverse places in the world. I mean, I don't know
Mm.
what is more diverse in that whole area there. And you go to different parts of Southern California, and the culture will be much different. You go to Orange County, it's going to be much different than just going slightly up north to
Mm.
Long Beach. I mean, we're talking 80 miles. The
Yeah, yeah,
people look different, the people act different, the people drive different vehicles. Like the culture is slightly different. Now you get people that move back and forth. You get people that live in these areas that have been there for generations, just that are 20 miles apart in Southern California. You go to Compton, and people want to pretend like Compton is this super dangerous place. Maybe for America, it's not the safest place to go to, but it is a black African American culture,
yeah,
and it's just different than just right next door. It
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. Absolutely, East LA, right?
yeah,
Very different. Yeah.
yeah. So I just
Remember
want
the
to
I remember the Cheech and
Hollywood.
I remember the Cheech and Chong song, "Born
Well,
in East LA."
North Hollywood and West Hollywood are different
There you
cultures.
go. Yeah, But I mean, like, this is when you talk about big cities, you get that much more close together, right? I mean, obviously, like the difference between East London and West London is, well, not so
There you
much
go.
anymore, but it used to be like, a huge difference. Yeah, Cockney versus North London, just very different. But I do think that like culture shouldn't be conflated with skin color. I think that's a mistake,
No.
especially as we get into this new century, because the kids don't see it so much. They want to ape whatever is in social media.
Well,
And
ethnicity, a shared ethnic culture has something to do with a shared family background and stuff like that too. It's not the only thing that's cultural about it, but there is a lot about culture.
Mm.
Like when you study like anthropology, there is shared like family history or like shared culture that is ethnic, and
Yeah.
ethnicity has a lot to do with skin color too. So you can't totally say it has nothing to do with
No,
culture,
no,
but yeah,
agreed. But like I'm saying, like when people are growing up, these days, as opposed to maybe your generation and certainly my generation, the influence that it used to have a media influence, right? There was one or two outlets which kind of controlled the narrative. Now there's nothing controlling the narrative. It's the kids themselves that reinforce their own ideas. So I think
memes.
culture changes a lot quicker, and people are growing up. Like, what was that girl in America that said, "Oh, I identify as black"?
Rachel
Oh,
Dolezal. Rachel
Yeah, that's
Dolezal.
it. Yeah, right. I mean, that's just a great example right there of somebody who's gone, right, I don't want my culture. I identify as a different culture now. So that's it. That's what I am. And
well,
she worked, lived as, convinced people that she wasn't, her culture, her own
yeah.
sort of born culture, so to speak.
Well, she grew up with two adopted siblings that were black. But I understand, like, and people were offended on both sides about her identifying as
Sure, there's always going to be people taking
culturally
offense.
black.
My point is, if she has kids, right, they're not going to be culturally attuned the same way that she was.
No, I don't
Right?
know how she was culturally attuned, but
She grew
her
up
kids could be
with white parents, right? She was
well,
blonde with the white parents.
yeah, she grew up with white parents, but she did grow up in a black family that was like half black.
Right. There was okay, let me put it to you this way. There was a very interesting program which was Odd One Out, right?
Yeah.
Did you see that? Okay, so they had like 7 guys, uh, and one of which was white, and everybody had to vote off who they thought that the white person was.
Oh yeah. I see.
Yeah, and the white person was not voted off.
Yeah.
Right? And it turned out everybody else, right? That's because he was adopted, 6 months old, into a black family. He grew up on, wherever, in a black neighborhood, went to black schools. I mean, you could not tell that you could not tell that he was white if you had a blindfold on. And
Yeah.
that's the
I
simple
saw
fact. And
I
other
s-
people thought he was blacker than the guy standing next to him. So, I mean, it just goes to show, like, it is culture is learned, right? It's not
Yeah.
ethnicity is not the thing which determines it. It's it's
Right.
it's it's the people that you get your instruction from
But
that tell
part of the
you.
culture is identifying other people in your culture by the way they look and act and
Agreed.
behave. And if you're in a black neighborhood and you have this specific type of culture, and some white person comes in who may have been raised in the same type of culture, have the same type of like mannerisms and behaviors, and
Mm.
dresses the same, those other people may look at them as a poser or somebody who's pretending, who's
Yeah,
first trying to get
that's the
credibility.
issue that I'm bringing up there. That's the
Yeah.
problem. That's because people identify culture with skin color, and it's just not true.
Well, I think we identify culture with shared a lot of things, and skin color is. I don't necessarily. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but I do
Right.
think in a lot of ways, it is a shared culture. Like me personally, like I don't know what my culture is. I've grown up. I've been all over the country, lived in all parts of the country, the north, the south, the east, the west, and like, what culture am I? Like,
Mm.
I don't know. Like, I'm an American, but so I'm a white dude. It's, I guess some people think I'm a demon, but it's a different story.
Well, there's always going to be somebody that thinks that you're this or that, right? And I'm just saying
Yeah.
that they're wrong. They're wrong.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
Your whiteness does not determine your culture.
and a lot of our cultures can be shared. It doesn't even matter. These ethnicities, races, all of this stuff. So, for example, you talked about Pakistan, right? What is the difference between a Pakistani and an Indian? Really nothing. What is a Pakistani? They're Indian Muslims. And that's going to sound like a very offensive thing, but that is what they are. The Indian Muslim League created Pakistan. They're Indian Muslims. For all intents and purposes, there's no difference between them and Indians. But they will make a huge deal. And it was created. My father was born in the 30s. So he was a lot older than me. He was born before the partition. And my father's born like near like Sri Lanka, Tamil Nadu. And so it's an interesting situation, but
that is interesting because I have met a number of British Indians that don't identify as Indian, identify as British.
Became British. That's the thing, because they're like, look, we're British
They've
here.
lived here for 60 years or whatever, and they just say, well, I'm British and I'm not even Indian anymore.
There's African Americans like that in the U.S. too.
I'm American. I'm an American.
Yeah.
I'm an American citizen. I'm a part of this culture, and I think the problem is like,
and don't forget the Sikhs as well. By the way, I mean they have a different attitude completely.
And there are different
Punjabi.
Both the
and there's probably going to be like 10 to 15% of African Americans that are going to vote for Trump.
For sure. And Hispanics. So you have a lot of minorities, because a lot of minorities in the United States are very conservative. So they're like, look, we believe in conservative values. There's this weird conflation. They're like, oh, you're a Democrat, you're a liberal because you're a person of color. You're like, no, I'm very socially conservative and I have my conservative values, and I don't actually believe in LGBTQIA plus, and I don't believe, I believe that there should be gendered roles. I definitely don't believe in bathrooms that, trans folks can come in. I don't believe in gender neutral bathrooms. So like, that's the funny thing. We have this weird, and like, it's the same. I'm not going to go deep into this point, but I want to bring this up. The Palestine-Israel situation, where people are like, I'm completely support Palestine, but I'm like, but you don't really fully completely support Palestine, because a lot of Palestinians are much more socially conservative than you are. Like if you're saying I'm an LGBTQIA person supporting Palestine, it's more complex than that. That's all I have to say.
You have Reds. What's up, Reds? Did you debate Flatzoid?
Supposedly that's happening tomorrow if he doesn't run away. Remains to be seen.
What brings you here, man? You want to talk about? We're just bullshitting right now, so.
Well, that's why I'm here, because you guys were bullshitting, and I like bullshitting too, especially on a night such as this where I'm off and can't sleep, and I see you here. I'm like, oh, an opportunity.
An opportunity, definitely. Yeah, we were talking about multiculturalism, and originally we were doing an after show for a debate, but Nadir came on and he said I had a mental defect which prevented me from understanding that the parables are false. Anyways, it's really weird, so I kicked him. But welcome to the show.
Which means you're throwing the great prophet Jesus under the bus. Just saying.
Nadir is a flat earther of Muslim debates.
But yes, that excuse has been making the rounds on Twitter as well, where if you don't instantly buy their bullshit, you will just get called autistic, or say you have some sort of learning disability or something like that.
You're a globetard.
Or a globetard, yes. Especially that one.
But Nadir is not a flat earther. He refuses to debate. I tried to set up a debate with him who's the guy that thinks rocks are hearts? Howard Stirrup. I tried to set up a debate with him with Howard Stirrup, and he didn't. Nadir is like hard to get to agree to any topic. All he wants to do is debate that the Quran is scientific. I'm like, dude, that's like the dumbest argument ever. Like, then you subject the Quran to falsifiability. But anyways,
I thought the new thing on the block was being proud that your holy book isn't scientific, because it's not supposed to be bound by scientific facts or scientific evidence. It's supposed to be beyond this world, as they say.
well, I think that would be like the modern apologetics. Like, if you listen to William Lane Craig, he would say that it was unfalsifiable or something like that. And
I mean, if they just come out and say it's magic, bitch, I don't have to explain shit. I would respect that, honestly.
yeah. Well, I just did a debate a couple days ago with this guy called Evidence for God, and he tried to argue that slime molds were evidence of God because E equals MC squared is equivalent to the Trinity, and slime molds are conscious because of energy.
This is the part where people take pattern recognition to the extreme, and they end up with very absurd conclusions.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the whole problem. Like, at least like Nadir, I think, is mostly harmless, except his whole thing about people that don't accept Islam have a brain defunction. Like, that's dangerous. I think that's a dangerous belief.
I would agree.
Yeah, in general, like, it's not like they deny vaccines. They don't deny, like, he doesn't deny evolution, all that stuff. But
Interesting. Well, you're going to see a lot more of that, unfortunately. It's not quite a death rattle, viewer, because they're clearly losing the argument, but I would call it it's on an individual basis, but I would call it a coping mechanism.
yeah. What are they going to do when people don't die off? Like, I don't want to talk about it because YouTube doesn't like that topic, but they keep saying like 30% or 60% of the population is going to die off because a third of us got the sugar shots. But like, they're never going to apologize. Like, they're just going to pretend like, oh, that they never even made the claim, or they're going to say, oh, I was just like, it was just a possibility. I wasn't sure.
Are we talking about the beer flu?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Don't want to get you demonetized or taken down by YouTube.
Even though YouTube said I could do anti-vaccine videos, but then you saw what they did to Steve's video.
Yeah, I don't trust YouTube, because here's the thing. There is no human making the decision. It's an imperfect robot making these decisions. And so you do have to be on the side of caution with YouTube. Unfortunately, I wish there was a human reviewing these things. By the way, hang on. Attention YouTube, please get a human to review these things. That would be great. Thank you. So anyway, but yes, with the
It's like Leo's back in the room again.
but yeah, with YouTube, you're never going to win with the robot, unfortunately. So be cautious.
So is he going to explain what he did with those 11 frames, or?
No, I don't think so. He's been running away from the subject for the last 4 years. I think I offered Flatzoid an opportunity to come onto my channel long ago. I think all the way back in 2019. I don't think he ever showed up to that. And as far as I'm concerned, it was a dead issue at that point. He didn't want to justify his dishonest edits, and that was that. But other people have been bringing it up to him constantly, just trolling him about it, and it's absolutely hilarious every time it happens. And every single time that it gets brought up, the dude just flies off the handles. So clearly his panties have been in a twist over the last 4 years. I imagine that must be very uncomfortable for him. But recently he came out of the woodwork again with a new Twitter account, because I think he nuked his old account because of all the embarrassing shit that was on there. So he came back, brought this up again. I'm like, you know what? I'll put it to a vote. I personally don't want to talk to you. You're pointless to
I
talk
saw
to.
your vote.
It's a dead issue. I don't need to talk about. But who am I to say no when the audience wants it? So I'll put it to a vote and we'll see what happens. And I set the vote for 3 days to be just in time for Saturday. So I plan on setting the live stream up at 8 o'clock in the morning as a scheduled stream for noon Eastern time, and I will be sending him the link hours in advance, so he will definitely have it. And the only reason why he wouldn't show up is by him not clicking the link.
Can you invite Brenda Debates on just in the middle of it?
I can invite whoever I want.
just invite Brenda Debates. He's been banned from my channel. He did a debate against Brenda on he sucks, by the way. Debating morality. He's horrible.
Yeah. No,
he just sucks in every genre. Like,
well, yeah, he's a flat earther. The dude's IQ is that of room temperature, dude.
Yeah.
If,
so he gets to the last super chat. I'm asking the question, and it's sort of a no true Scotsman question, but in this case, it's a no true Christian question about Catholics or something. And Brenda is pushing on him on that claim, and then the Zit guy, Flatzoid, where are we going?
Yeah, Flatzoid.
I don't have a lot of nice things to say. I was going to insult him. Anyways,
like we call him Failzoid.
Yeah, Failzoid. But anyways, he said, "Who are you? You can't even figure out who you are. So who are you to tell me what's a true Christian?" And I was like, I didn't hear that part. All I heard, because I was moderating, all I heard was Brenda going off on Flatzoid, like cussing and swearing. I'm like, "Hold on, calm down. What's going on?" Anyways, then I replayed the tape and I was like, "Oh no, you're not invited back here, dude. This was you didn't follow the rules." Like, so I voted no on that poll because
I thank you for doing that, because in my opinion, that was the correct choice. The dude has been desperate, absolutely desperate to be eclipsed by my shadow again. And I figured, you know what, I'll put it to a vote because I don't want to say yes to this douchebag. So, and you're right, he's absolutely bottom of the barrel in terms of, flurfs out there. He is absolutely bottom of the barrel when it comes to the flurfs. And that's saying something, because they don't set the bar very high to begin with. So to go even lower is quite an accomplishment, honestly. But yeah, if does anyone does everyone here know what happened with the 11 frames, or should I go into detail about that?
Go ahead and explain it. There might be people that don't know who you are or the topic, because this is a religious conversation. But
yeah, until I showed up and completely screwed it up. So apologies.
I'm the flat earth. I'm the anti-flat earther here. So there's flat earthers in the audience. They always go into our audiences. So,
well, with your permission, then I'll go ahead and start. So there was a test launch in Cape Canaveral, Florida, of the Orion launch escape system. And what that is a tower that is placed on top of the crew capsule, so that in the event of a failure, the tower has its own rockets, its own set of rockets that can pull the spacecraft out of harm's way. And then with the spacecraft detached from the rocket at that point, it will fall back to Earth under parachute. The crew survives. Everyone's happy. Well, in order to make sure everything works, they had to do a test launch. And so they strapped this capsule to a solid rocket booster and lit it off. And I think it went to somewhere around 30,000 feet, something like that. They fired the launch escape tower, and what do you know? It was a successful test. However, the capsule was just a dummy. It didn't have any parachutes on it. So with just a Nikon camera and my tripod, I'm following this test capsule all the way down to the water, and I go to the part where I believe the capsule is going to hit the water, and it turns out I was right. That was chef's kiss. Just that was awesome footage. But anyway, there was a part of that video that if you were to slow it down, you could see that the capsule disappeared behind the horizon, behind the curvature of the Earth. So that was amazing. Flatzoid didn't like that. So when he made a response video using my footage, he cut out a number of frames that made it look like it didn't disappear behind the curvature of the Earth, behind the horizon. The way that he had edited the footage made it look like as it was coming down, that the very moment it hit where the horizon would be, the splash happened. There was no moment where it was not in our line of sight or within the line of sight of the camera. So that was very dishonest of him. He was trying to hide the horizon, doing horizon shit. And I was like, look at that. We need to call this guy out on it. And so that's exactly what we did in our live stream that we had back in 2019. Well, of course, that blew up, and we had YouTubers like Bert and Mr. Sensible making response videos to Flatzoid, and the consensus is that he removed anywhere from 11 frames. I've seen 13 frames in another video, so somewhere between 11, 13 frames, something like that. The exact number doesn't really matter. The point is, he cut out the portion of the video, even though it's a relatively small number of frames, he cut out those frames to hide the horizon doing horizon shit. He cut out the part of the video where it showed the dummy capsule being hidden by the curvature of the Earth. What a dishonest piece of shit. So, of course, people were calling him out on it. Now, he made a number of excuses, and I don't know if this video still exists, so you guys will just have to take my word for it. I'm not going to post any links to this. But in the first video that he made regarding this frame deletion issue where he hid the horizon doing horizon shit, where he hid the fact that the capsule did in fact go over the curve of the Earth, he said that those edits were an accident. He said that he accidentally removed those 11 frames in editing. So that was his first video. Then he made another video saying, oh no, those were on purpose. They were strategic edits to get rid of the refractive layer, whatever the fuck that means, because guess what? That refractive layer is still there. You can't get rid of that. It's in all of the other frames. So that excuse didn't work. And then I think, I could be wrong on this because the dude's bouncing all over the place. This is what happens when a person is incredibly unhinged. But I think now he's claiming that he didn't remove frames at all. Now, I could be wrong on that. And if I am, so be it. But that's why I want him to come on to my channel so that he can justify how he edited my video in whatever way he edited my video, whether he removed frames or not. I know for a fact he did remove frames, but if he says he didn't, then I would like for him to explain that to us. And yeah, that's basically the whole story. So to make this very condensed TLDR, he took my video, removed the part of the video where you see the capsule going behind the horizon to make it look like it didn't go behind the horizon. It's because, you know, can't show curve or anything like that. That would be detrimental to my bullshit story. He got called out for it, and he's been butthurt ever since.
Right. I've seen him be called out for it several times. I think Mark Reed's been a while in one of the debates on Modern Day Debate going over it with him, and he was making the same type of excuses. But somebody asked about the final experiment. Were you emailed by Will, or are you one
No,
of the
I wasn't
24?
emailed by anybody.
How are you not one of the 24? Anyways, it's 0 to 6. Who are the 24 people? Like, I'm not. I don't know. I know I'm not one of the 24.
24 regarding what?
So you don't know the final experiment thing?
Oh,
Or
that
low
thing.
copy?
Yeah. I know about it. I most likely won't be doing anything with that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, he invited 24 Globe debaters, influencers, I guess, to the thing, and like who's the top 24 people that he picked that would be defending that position? I don't know.
well, the way it started out, at least, he was giving off the impression that he was inviting a whole bunch of people to Antarctica. At least that's the perception I got while watching his videos. Maybe I misinterpreted all of the signals that he was giving in his videos, but I had thought that the goal was to take as many people to Antarctica as possible. And I was like, there's no way in hell that that's gonna happen, because that would be really, really expensive. I think we actually lowballed it. We were like, listen, even if we assumed that it was just $5,000 per person, you would be talking multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. No one is going to spend that kind of money for flat earthers on the internet.
Yeah, and it's $31,000, he said, for the trip to Antarctica, but you have to get yourself to the airport to go to Antarctica, wherever in South America the airport is. But yeah, he's only taken 2 people. I misunderstood it too, and a lot of flat earthers were saying this was sort of deceptive, and I'm not saying it was intentional, but I would have liked more clarity. Like, if you're going to be, I think it's still just like, it's not going to convince anybody.
No, I was of the same mindset as you, that I had thought that the video was inviting, or the video has said that, oh, I'm going to be inviting all of these people to participate in the final experiment, and the final experiment is taking place in Antarctica. Yeah. So I'm invited to go to Antarctica. It was very weird, to say the least, and maybe it wasn't on purpose. Maybe it was just lazy editing. That's always a possibility. But at the end of the day, it's a distinction without a difference. I'm still very disappointed in this whole thing. And honestly, I think it's going to turn into a free trip for a flurf, and it's going to solve absolutely nothing. Yeah. There are better ways to spend over $100,000, in my opinion. I had made the recommendation to him that if he is going to go to Antarctica, that he should get the biggest bang for his buck. Or if he's not the one going to Antarctica, he should get the biggest bang for his buck by only sending flat earthers. Yeah. Only flat earthers need to be convinced. We as globies know that the 24-hour sun is a thing in Antarctica in the Antarctic summer. We know that that's a thing.
Well, Witsit got mad at me because I said that if I didn't see 24 hours of daylight during the summer in Antarctica, I would probably become a flat earther, because there's no explanation. Your coffee cup caustic nonsense is not an explanation for why it would be lit up for 24/7. Coffee cup caustic is just about how the light reflects in a specific pattern, and that's not what you're seeing when you see 24 hours of sunlight. So it's just a bullshit, like, post hoc explanation for why people see sunlight.
Well, keep in mind, flat earthers are known for brute forcing their model to work with what we see in reality. So, for example, when they couldn't explain the sun altitude angles or the altitude angles of Polaris and how it changes depending on your location, they invented the personal atmospheric dome, and it just follows each individual uniquely, because that's the way God made it. And then in order to make a model on this principle, they plagiarized someone else's model.
Walter
and yeah, exactly. They Shane plagiarized someone else's model that uses globe reality to work.
I got a funny thing with Shane. But let's see. Yeah, they do that. It has no. Basically, they're appealing to a subjective form of reality. They're not determining what's objectively true.
It's a top-down
just saying-
approach.
Yeah, you're just saying everybody has a subjective interpretation of the external world. Duh. Science is about trying to figure out the difference between what's purely our subjective imagination about the world and what's objectively true, stance independent. Like, if no humans existed, what would be true about the nature of the reality? They're just saying everything's subjective. I'm like, that's not what science is trying to do. Like, we could just all be solipsists then and just say, oh, only what's happening in my own mind is real. The rest of you aren't.
I have a feeling that most of them are solipsists and they don't even know it. But
I made that argument before, but
with the 24 hours, with the 24-hour sun thing, they're just going to say, oh, that's just your personal atmospheric dome doing personal atmospheric dome things. And they're not going to have an explanation for it, because to them, that's all the explanation that's needed. So you're not going to convince them. You're just going to say, okay, the flat earth is operating in the way that it should, given these facts. The facts are that the personal atmospheric dome is a thing, and it's going to mimic this behavior. It's going to mimic what we would see on a globe, but that's the funny thing about it, because it actually isn't a globe. It just looks like it's a globe, because personal atmospheric dome bullshit. Insert excuses here.
Well, at least Iron Horse, when I debated him, he was honest to say, well, if everybody didn't have a personal sun following around, then that would be the sun was some silly 93 million miles away. Yes. Yes, correct.
You mean how it's labeled in Shane's... Oh, I'm sorry, Shane's model? Look at the code. It says 93 million miles away. I was like, busted.
Well, this is funny. It's so Shane, somebody like making like the throw up thing about how I look. Like, flat earthers love to just insult the way people look. You know, they don't like attacking the arguments. And of course, I'm the person they hate, or one of the people. You're one of the people. Like, we get the privilege of being hated because we attack them all the time. Well, we don't attack them. We just tell them they're idiots. Anyway, so I made this comment. Shane says 100% to me being disgusting. And so I said, do you want me to show everything everyone says about you, Shane? Because I got people in the chat see how gross he looks, how fat he looks. And I tell people in the chat, you shouldn't talk about him like that. Like he's a person, he has his own thing. And then I say, I tell people in the live chat, don't treat Shane like that. That's not respectful. And then I say, in all manners, I outclass you. And his response was yes. He's correct. So yes, he agrees. In all things, I outclass Shane. I'm not going to pretend like he was answering the first question, because of course flat earthers read everything. Right?
Yeah.
They just don't read the first few words.
Is it when the debate is lost, slander and libel become the tools of the loser, or something like that?
Yeah.
I don't know where that quote is from, maybe Socrates or some shit like that, but that's ultimately where they will go when they're clearly losing the argument. God forbid they stay on topic, right?
Oh, yeah. They never they don't like questions. Did you watch the Aiden debate when Aiden the Lore Lodge?
No, I didn't.
For that, like the last 17 minutes. So the last 17 minutes of that, they're sort of like they do like anti-conspiracy theory stuff. He has like 400,000 subscribers. It's a very classy put together show they do on YouTube, the Lore Lodge. And he had Witsit on. And so Witsit's always demeaning, right? It's like, you guys all believe this. You guys, or you people, you know, he's like poisoning the well, this whole argument. You just don't understand. And finally, at the end, Aiden just gets annoyed with this friggin' douchebag. Yes, Witsit. And Witsit I'm not nice to. Witsit's a douchebag. There. Clip that. I'm waiting. Okay, good. You got time to clip it. And so he just starts to ask him questions. It says, no, we're going to do the Socratic method here. You asked me to prove orbit, so I'm going to ask you questions. And as soon as he starts asking questions, Witsit is like just the bumbling fool. They can't answer any questions. He keeps trying to divert it back to topics that he can use a lot of large words to try to obfuscate the fact that he has no clue what he is talking about.
Oh, the moon is a ferrocell image.
Well, he says the Earth. He says we're in a block domain, he says we're in a block domain in a magnet. The Earth is. We're flat block domain in a magnet. Now,
Basically,
like a ferrocell.
If you want to make a Witsit argument, what you have to do is you have to just rail a line of coke. And after that's done, give yourself about maybe 30 seconds, psych yourself up, maybe run into the wall a few times, and you will come up with some crazy bullshit that will match the bullshit that Witsit comes out with all the time.
Yeah. That's what I did in our last debate. He won't talk to me anymore. He's blocked me. But I asked him to debate on the moon landing. I got the email. I wanted to debate the moon landing, if it happened or not, because he makes all these videos. He won't debate that topic, of course. He'll debate. Now he wants to debate geocentrism. So he wanted to debate me on geocentrism. Is geocentrism true? So, okay. Fine.
I wanted to debate him on a whole bunch of subjects, and he won't do it. I wanted to debate him on the shape of the Earth, distance to the sun, moon landing stuff. Yeah, it's all good. The problem is that he wants to be in control of everything. He wants to pick the venue. He wants to pick the moderator. And I think the compromise I'm giving him is fair. I say, no, I'm going to give you two options, and you get to pick one of them. You can either pick the moderator or you can pick the venue. But whatever you leave on the table, I'm taking. So if you pick the moderator, I pick the venue. If you pick the venue, then I pick the moderator. It's only fair, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. So
if you pay him, he'll debate you.
Of course, I ain't paying that dude shit.
He doesn't dance for money. It's so funny. Anyways, so I asked him questions because I'm not taking a positive position. The debate topic is geocentrism true, which you're seeing the Earth. His argument was that the Earth was in the middle of the universe. So I asked him, what he means. What do you mean? What do you mean by center? What do you mean by universe? It's argument, and then he asked me questions. He wants to ask me questions. Like, it's not my position. So I would answer his questions, and then I asked him more questions. And eventually he calls me a sophist, said I was being deceitful online. I was like, and he said the Earth was not an object. The Earth is an object. Then how are we in the center of anything? And what, we're just friggin' magic? What's the Earth if it's not an object?
It's whatever he needs it to be.
Yeah.
Every single time. And when it comes to the moon landing stuff, I was not in a conversation with him, but with one of his lackeys. Don't remember the name, but obviously they sounded just like Witsit. It could have been Witsit on a fake account for all I know. But they were asking, how do you know that's even possible to make it to the moon? How do you know without taking NASA's word for it? And one of the strongest pieces of evidence that we have on how we can know that it is possible to get there in the first place is because we've actually personally measured it. Astronomy Live, back during the Artemis launch, which happened in 2022, we were there for the launch. Now, I had to leave after the launch had concluded, and I got amazing footage, which is why my footage was uploaded first. But Astronomy Live stayed behind, and he was able to capture the Orion spacecraft passing overhead one orbit later. We were able to show that the craft made it to orbit. Then, using his telescope in Florida and with a different telescope that he was able to remote into in Chile on the iTelescope network, he was able to get parallax measurements of the Orion spacecraft throughout its entire journey. He was able to predict its orbit. He was even able to predict where it was going to land. And he was also able to show that he needed to make multiple predictions of its orbit because its orbit would become outdated because it would change its direction, proving that rockets work in space. So to make a long story very short, Astronomy Live made a whole bunch of measurements and observations showing and measuring the craft going to the moon, going around the moon, coming back, and on its last trajectory change, or somewhere around there, he was able to predict where it was going to land. And Astronomy Live was exactly right. We were able to track the Orion spacecraft all the way to the moon and back, and we got accurate distance measurements at the exact same time. So independent observers were able to confirm that that craft went to the moon and back. We didn't ask NASA's permission to make those observations. NASA didn't give us the privilege of using these telescopes. We paid money for it.
So I got a debate on Wednesday. Is that it? I might use that in the debate on Wednesday as third-hand evidence that we went to the moon. That's not a government agency.
No, the Orion spacecraft was launched by NASA. That part is true. However, tracking of that spacecraft was completely independent of NASA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to make matters worse or better, depending on your definition and depending on which side of the debate you're on, Astronomy Life also recruited help from another YouTuber in it was either Australia or New Zealand. So not only did we have one person doing this independently with a telescope that they rented in Chile, but another YouTuber even got in on the action and assisted in getting parallax measurements. So even more confirmation that normal, everyday people who aren't professional astronomers, who aren't beholden to NASA or on their payroll or anything like that, we were able to show that they were able to get these measurements. So in order for Witz's bullshit to be true, he would have to explain those measurements.
Well, you could just say you're a shill and lying.
Of course, because that's going to be their ultimate excuse. But I wouldn't allow him to get away with that. I'd be like, no, Witsit, for once in your fucking life, get your head out of your ass. These guys aren't on NASA's payroll unless you can prove it. If you can't prove it, then shut the fuck up and deal with the evidence that is actually presented. These guys were able to independently confirm that that craft went to the moon and back again. Oh, and by the way, you disingenuous piece of shit, they have an open invite to flat earthers to join them for these types of observations. Why haven't you say yes? I heard that you've been in Florida harassing county commissioners.
Oh, yeah.
So why not make a beeline towards Tampa and join Astronomy Life for one of these observations? Join him while he's making measurements instead of pulling assertions that they're on NASA's payroll out of your fucking ass.
Speaking about NASA, though, I am a NASA influencer out now. They accepted me to do that. I don't know if you saw that NASA was doing a promotion to get social media influencers.
Oh, is that the NASA Social?
Huh?
It's called NASA Social?
Yeah, I think so. I got the email back saying I was accepted. I can go get my badge and all that stuff. And then I got a job offer to go work for, not for NASA, but part of the Artemis missions, and to work with mission control for their substation side, for the power side, because that's what my field is
I would say go for it. Yeah, be a part of history.
Sick. Yeah, I want to. I said I do debates, and but I don't know. I don't know if I can.
Well, that's fair. Now. That's fair if you can't. But one thing that I can do, if you would like, is I can send you some raw video that you can use in a debate. Let me fire up my drive real quick, and I'll show you guys something. You're gonna love this. It's absolutely amazing. I think you're gonna like. I think you're gonna like it, but maybe I'm biased. Who knows?
Flat earthers are on stage, so
nice.
Sometimes we get flat earthers on. They decided we were the enemy a while ago. And on anymore.
Interesting. Well, all right. Enemy status confirmed then. So what I have here is the raw, unedited footage from the Artemis launch. So let me screen share this for you guys.
Okay.
All right, you should be able to see that.
Here it is.
So this is the static cam. This is from the Nikon P900, the flat earther camera of choice. This camera does not move, but I'm going to hit play right here, and you're going to see you're going to see main engine start and then booster ignition. And that thing, it just takes off. It's absolutely amazing.
Third law.
Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
People, they always ask, well, why don't rockets take off, start moving instantaneously?
Inertia, that's why.
So dumb.
And it literally turned night into day that day. It was pretty awesome. Now, I also have this footage, or this piece of footage right here. Let me bring this up. It is my 76 footage. Let's see. Here we go. Share screens. Boom. All right, you guys should see that. And this is, in my opinion, one of the greatest shots I've ever gotten in my entire life. So what you're going to see here is flame out, and you're going to see solid rocket booster separation right here. There's separation. And you can just see the two solid rocket boosters falling back in exquisite detail. Just look at that. So fucking good.
What camera did you use for that?
The Nikon P1000, the flat earther camera of choice. I mean, you can see like the individual like sparks coming from the solid rocket boosters as they're falling back. So good. So good. But also in this clip, I won't show it here. I'll send it to you if you want it. But you can actually see like the jettison of the launch escape tower. That wasn't shown on the official NASA live stream because it was too far away for their cameras. But we were tracking it continuously throughout its launch until we literally could not see it anymore, where it was just a dot in the sky. And we were able to capture the launch escape tower being jettisoned from the rocket. So that confirms that they actually did what they say when they actually did what they said that they were going to do when they actually did it. So everything works out. We were there to see it. We were there to track it. And that craft went to the moon and came back again. So yeah. What evidence do they have that that craft didn't go to the moon? I can't wait to hear it.
They don't.
They don't.
Well, yeah, they just deny it. They don't bother to do any testing on their own. They just trust the word of other con artists and just reshare the same stuff. They pretend like they're truthers. They're looking for the truth, but they don't do any tests. They deny that Cavendish has an independent variable. Like it's a formula, dude. It has an independent dependent variable. That's what that means.
And here's the thing: people don't think in those terms. So when they ask for your independent variable, they're like, "The fuck you talking about?" And the only reason they're asking that question is to purposefully confuse people. So what I do is I just follow up with a clarifying question. I stay upfront that, look, I'm not thinking in those terms. So let's use basic everyday language. And let's get to the bottom of this. Why is what I'm doing not valid? Why can I not form a valid conclusion given what I have shown? Show me where the problem is. And when they can't do it, then it shows that they were asking that original question, their independent dependent variable bullshit. It shows that they were asking that question in bad faith.
Well, they memorize stuff to ask. They don't even know what they're asking.
Exactly.
Because you don't understand a formula anyways. You don't understand what a cause and effect. They think science is all about cause and effect too. I had somebody TB or whatever coming in earlier. Science is only about cause and effect. No, we have observational science. Like when we go out to nature, we observe how lions behave. There's no cause and effect relationship. We go observe how they behave to understand how they behave. Not all science is about tweaking an independent variable to see the dependent variable change. It's just not.
I had one of them state that an observation wasn't empirical.
That's what empiricism is.
And which is why, you know, I had this colossal facepalm moment. And I was like, what do you mean an observation isn't empirical? Like, are you fucking kidding me right now?
Well, they don't understand what empiricism means. And then they'll accuse other people of being scientistic, but then or scientism, like I'll use scientism. Scientistic. Leo corrected me at this on enough times. That scientistic is somebody who believes knowledge is only attainable through science, which is scientism. Just to be clear, so they'll accuse other people of worshiping science or the scientific method or whatever, when that's all they do. They say if you don't have their particular type of science, you can't know anything. Like, I never say that. Like, I know my dad's name. I never use science to verify my dad's name. He just told me. I took his word.
Oh, remember, MC Toon has the laws of Flurf, and I forget which number it is, but it says something like, I might be getting the verbiage wrong here, but the spirit is the same. They say that they're science deniers when reviewing globe evidence, but they're pseudoscientists when reviewing flat Earth evidence.
I got a new term for their pseudoscientism. Pseudoscientism. Because there is a philosophical position to say science is the best way of obtaining knowledge. And I don't agree it's the only way, though, but there are people who do adhere to that, even if they don't articulate it that way. But I think pseudoscientism is the better term for them.
Well, they'll actually invent fallacies out of thin air. Like my favorite one is appeal to mathematics.
Oh.
Then I'm like, yeah, math.
Yeah. Well, they'll appeal to Einstein. Einstein's not an authority on general relativity. I piss people off in my chat that aren't flat earthers when I say that. Einstein is not the authority on general relativity. He's not. He hasn't been for a long time. He used to be, until other people took it and ran with it and learned a lot more about it than he did. Einstein didn't even understand what the strong and weak nuclear force was, because they didn't have it as part of the model at the time.
I'll also give this image to you if you would like. Now you don't have to use it, but if you would like to use it, you at least have that option. This is a raw photo that we were of our setup. So if anyone says that, oh, you guys didn't actually go out there and do this, blah blah blah, and everything else like that, well, I have this.
You always take pictures if you're set up. You did that. Oh.
So this is a picture of our setup. Here you can see the telescope that we use. Now this telescope has its own drive motors. So you have altitude and azimuth. And these drive motors are controlled by these joysticks, as you can see right here. Wow. Now I'm using this same exact setup, but on a different telescope mount, and it's been modified so that it can hold a Nikon P1000, the flat earther camera of choice. And I'm controlling it with these joysticks right here. So we have two separate cameras recording the same exact thing on two separate setups, and we're able to get awesome footage with this. This is the setup that we used to track the launch of Artemis. And this is the telescope that was used, or I should say at least one of them that was used to measure parallax of the Orion spacecraft as it went to the moon and back again.
Yeah.
So if anyone would like to say, well, what did you use to do this? Well, here you go. Here's a picture of it. Enjoy.
Well, I'm going to go in 3 hours here. I actually want to stop it before 3 hours so I could send this through the Opus clip maker thing. There's an app that'll make clip, but it won't do anything over 3 hours. So that's okay.
Oh, the
but I'm being
StreamYard
tired.
thing?
Huh?
The StreamYard thing?
If the video's over 3 hours, no, there's another tool. It's called Opus or whatever that will do shorts for you automatically. It's pretty good. It'll actually edit it all. And Opus
So is
clips.
it going to cut the show in about 20 seconds, or is it going to keep going?
Oh no, it still keep going. But I'm going to cut the show because
fair
I'm
enough.
tired. And I've been reading too much. I might stream tomorrow and just say flat Earth is false to see if I get some chat going on in vertical mode. But with that, I think we're going to, if anybody has any last words to share, and I think there's another debate coming up too. I might be debating Wednesday, but this guy won't send a photo in. He's Froggy guy or whatever on X about the moon landing. He's not a flat earther, fortunately. He's just a moon landing denier.
If you have any free-for-all debates with any of those individuals, whether they're flat earthers or moon landing deniers or space deniers, that kind of thing, sign me up. I would love to drop in on one of those conversations because, unlike them, I've actually done the observations, I've made the measurements, and I got a lot to share. So that would be really, really fun if you can set something up like that in the future.
I'll try. It's hard for me to get anybody to debate their positions.
Oh, I know. It sucks, especially because they want to stay on that awful platform known as Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter. It's still Twitter. Fuck off, Elon. It's not X. It's Twitter.
Well, they want
Twitter.
They want their stinking posse to help them out, and they want the mute button and stuff like that. It's like, I don't even think I'll debate on. I debated on Jeranism twice, and but like my last debate on Jeranism, we were supposed to do this 40-minute thing where we both got 40 minutes, and it was debating Shane, and Shane sucks at debating, and so I had like 7 minutes banked so I could explain why Shane is wrong and why gravity exists and all this stuff. And then Jaren took my 7 minutes away and gave it to Shane to ask me questions.
This is why they have to be limited in what they're allowed to do with these debates, which is why I give them those two options. You can either choose the moderator or you can choose the venue, because fuck giving them all the power. I'm sorry. They suck at this. And so if we're going to have a debate, we need to make sure that there's safeguards in place to make this debate somewhat kind of maybe legitimate.
Well, they did the same thing for me on Modern Day Debate. Whenever Ryan moderates me, I pin Witsit down into a position, and he stops me. He tells me I'll give him time to talk. And then, so you know what the time to talk was? For Witsit to explain why I was lying to everybody. I wasn't allowed to interrupt Witsit while he was arguing why I was a deceiver and lying anybody, because Ryan, I'm sorry, Ryan, you suck at moderation. But when I debated evidence of God when I debated Caleb, my debate with Caleb was awesome. I owned Caleb that whole friggin' 3 hours because James was moderating. James knows how to moderate and let things go. Every time I find a clippable moment from a debate when Ryan is debating on Modern Day Debate, and I find, this is a perfect short to pull out from there, Ryan is talking in the middle of it.
Yeah, I don't like that at all. If I was to choose a channel to have a flat Earth debate on, I would choose a channel like yours or the Non Sequitur Show. I would choose Sly Sparkane or MC Toon. Those are the channels I would like to have a debate on. Because I know that that would be a proper safeguard against flat earthers doing flat earth shit, which is to constantly interrupt you or abuse the mute button, allow them all the privilege and rights to completely ad hom the shit out of you. But the very moment you give them a taste of their own medicine, oh no, you can't do that. Mute. You can't do that. Bad. That's bad of you. Don't do that. You're hurting his feelings.
Mark Reed apparently is hosting debates now too, so there's another place.
We have potential is what I'm trying to say, and the only way to really get the most out of these debates is to, in my opinion, not give them complete authority on who's moderating and where it's going to be held. The last time that I debated ban, I had to give up both, and I had to find a workaround so that it could be broadcasted on my channel to where I could actually screen share the evidence that I wanted to show. I debated ban notice on Sacred's Twitter space, and I literally had to have Jared across state lines screen share the Twitter space on my YouTube channel in order for me to screen share what I wanted to show. It was a total cluster, and I didn't like that. So I'm like, I'm more than happy to have Sacred be a mod again, but I don't want to do this on Twitter Space. But if I am forced to do it on Twitter Space, this is going to be on a Twitter Space that I choose.
Dude, all those people do is insult me, call me names and shit like that, belittle me. They beg me to go in their spaces every Friday. They're what? You need to come on to the spaces. I'm like, I went on once. I said, and their space was like they titled it "Space is Gay." And who's that Franco guy from CERN? I can't remember his name. He's a physicist from CERN, and Witz is telling him he doesn't understand the scientific method. I'm like,
well, Witz is. Idiot. Have you ever seen the episode of South Park where everyone buys a Prius and they enjoy the smell of their own farts?
No.
You should look up that clip and just understand. See, yeah, you know it, Billy. So
got Doctor Who on.
Yeah, so if you look at that clip of that South Park clip of people buying a Prius and enjoying the smell of their own farts, that's Witsit. That like to a T. That's Witsit.
Well, I went into the spaces, said, stop inviting me into your spaces because all I'm going to do is tell you all you're friggin' stupid for creating a space called Space is Gay and then begging me to come on your space. If you want me to come onto your space, here's my friggin' PayPal donation money. Send me $80 and you'll come on for an hour. Other than that, stop bothering me. And then I left. Then they were taking me, oh, you have this physicist there to help you. I'm like, first of all, he doesn't need my help. Second of all, we don't have the same arguments. Like, I have different positions than some physicists at CERN's going to have, so it doesn't matter. But what's up, Time Lord? Welcome to the stage.
I'm sorry, I wanted to ask you something backstage. I thought I could stay there, and you put me on. I'm sorry.
Oh, just ask me now.
I was chatting with one of the guys in the side chat about doing a math debate, kind of a silly topic, 099 repeating, does it equal or not equal 1? And
yes.
Neither of us are experienced debaters, but we thought maybe you would host like a 15, 20-minute short one, just, let us have a little bit of fun one day.
Sure. Who doesn't think 0.999 repeating does not equal 1?
Me.
I know there's you.
Oh God.
Okay, what's 0.9999 repeating forever equal?
No, hold on. Let's not talk about the topic before the debate, right? Don't spoil the pot.
Well, when do you want to debate it?
I don't know. The guy I was talking to, it was Shifty McEyes, I think, or something.
Shifty Eyes Shady.
The uncontrollable urge.
And
he was
unsure. He
You
was
accept-
unsure. I was just trying to ask you if that might be possible. I didn't want to do it in public. Sorry.
No, you can ask me here, or people can join my Discord too, and tag me. It's just discord.gg/matters now, or you can just search for matters now, one word. It should come up on server search. Should. And it's also linked in my About Me page on this channel. It might be in the description, but you go to the About Me page of the channel. It has a Discord link, my Twitter link, and all that stuff. You guys can find me there. But I can debate that, but we'd have to agree on if you accept the axiomatics claims for mathematics. You believe math is axiomatic? You believe the 1 is equal to 1, 2 is equal to 2?
Most of the basics, yes. But that also gets into part of my argument, so I don't want to go too far down that road. Some of the basics, yes. And I had a great conversation in the chat earlier with Sim Claw, KLA was his name, and he kept wanting to talk about 20 versus 1. Is 20 more than 1? But is 20 bricks more than 1 building? And that's 2 different questions.
Yeah. But when you're talking numbers on a number line, that's the same context. So if you're comparing apples to apples when you're comparing numbers on a number line, but when you're comparing apples to oranges, and you're not comparing the same thing. So, but we would still agree that 90 bricks is more than 1 brick. But if the building isn't made of bricks, and it's made of one piece of styrofoam, I mean, it just depends on how you're quantifying things, but that's a different argument. But my issue is if we're agreeing on what's true axiomatically about math, like a triangle has 3 sides and 180 degrees internally if it's Euclidean geometry.
Right. So to get the most basic version is that we can agree on the 1 + 1. We can agree on the triangle. We can agree on a lot of things. There's going to be a point where we don't agree, right?
Yeah. So I would have to know where that disagreement is. But in mathematics, it is just true. So you'd be arguing for a different version of mathematics. That's all I would be we can have the discussion, but do you accept the traditional version of mathematics?
I do. And I also realize that part of this is just in fanciful jest. It's not that I live my life by this, or I'm going to change, physics as we know it, or anything like that. No. This is just a fun mind game.
Yeah. We can. It'd be short because you're wrong. But would you want to do that?
Oh man, the uncontrollable urge to post a number file video.
Yeah. So this is I'll just post the Steve McRae paper. He wrote.
I mean, come on. I'm asking something completely different. We're not talking about religion or flat Earth or something else that's been done 1,000 freaking times. When's the last time you saw this being debated? And it's just as dumb, also.
Like a couple days ago on Twitter.
Oh, really?
Yeah, people debate it often. There's people that don't understand 0.999 continuous forever is equal to 1. This is a common belief, especially even in atheists, people that pride themselves on being scientific or valuing science don't understand in mathematics. It's just what it means.
Even though the number looks different, it actually means exactly the same thing. It's no different than using the @ symbol and actually typing out the word @. They mean the exact same thing, even though they look different.
Yeah, it's like 0.666 continuously forever is equal to 2/3.
It can be it can be confusing the first time you look at it.
Yeah, we can talk about it. It's just I don't have a. There's a formal argument. Steve McRae wrote one actually.
Oh, I'm very familiar with his stuff. And anyways, yeah, that could be part of the debate. Sure.
When would you want to have this debate out of curiosity, just so I can set my clock?
I really came up with the idea recently, so I'd say, I mean, at least a few days to prepare, maybe like a week out or something. I don't know.
Sure, next Saturday.
I must ask the other gentleman, but it sounds like just about anyone would take up this topic.
I'll take it. I'll take it up.
Sure, I'll moderate then. I wish we can we like move it into are either of you realists, mathematical realists? Do you believe
I'm not
is
sure
real?
with that relevant to mathematics, like on being
So
a realist versus mathematical realist. How do you distinguish?
Like a Platonic concept of math that they exist stance independent. Do you think math exists without humans?
Yes and no. So can't give you a good answer on that.
So that's a good argument, I think, is like realism when it comes to
I
math.
think that the properties exist, but without the humans to ascribe the values, it means nothing.
That would be a debate that I would like to see, whether or not math is discovered or invented.
That is an actual topic within philosophy. Is between that two concepts is mathematical realism. Is it invented? Is it discovered? Is it some combination of the two? Is it a language? Is it something other than a language? Is language invented?
See, I would go with the combination that there are properties that we can discover, and yet to utilize them, we have to give it some value, meaning, linguistic, whatever. So without that, a 1 + 1 might as well be a blah plus a blah. Well, that changes math a little bit.
Yeah, so that would be a better debate for me. I don't know if we have any mathematical realists, but we can debate, because if you think math can mean whatever you want it to mean, then it would just follow that 0.999 can mean whatever you want it to mean.
I would say that topic would be a better topic to discuss rather than the 0.99, because oh boy, the urge to post the number file video.
Do you distinguish between theoretical math and usable, testable right now versus like, okay, some of the stuff that Hawking was proposing with black holes, we might not ever be able to test that, but the math kind of plays out from what we do know versus like, quantifiable measurements right now.
I think you mean theoretical physics. But
well, the name kind of gives it away, right? Theoretical physics.
Yeah. So theoretical means that it's not a theory. It's like, that's more the layman term when we see theoretical physics. I hate the language we use around science. It's not very specific. They should have never used the word theory, because it doesn't mean the same thing with normal people use it.
Can we all just agree that I think we should all just agree right here, right now, that English is stupid?
Sure.
I got in this argument, like your argument is void of intelligence versus devoid of intelligence. And both words are correct. And Steve McRae said, well, the void is more grammatically correct. I'm like, no, it's not. How could one be more grammatically correct than the other? Both of the words are synonymous, but actually void means devoid means it's absolutely absent, like completely without. Where void just means without. So when you say your argument's devoid of intelligence, you mean it's completely lacking, completely without intelligence. When you say it's void of intelligence, you're just saying it's without intelligence. And that's like no one uses the words that way. So, but it's still like proper English. But English just sort of, like you said, sucks in general. There's the word set, just the 3-letter word set, SET, has over 400 different definitions.
Context becomes very important.
Game, set, match.
Mm-hmm. I would say that this is exactly why, in my opinion, English is stupid. But flat earthers are, to bring it briefly back to flat earthers, they know that English is stupid, and so they try to use that to their advantage, where they will purposefully redefine words to the point where the vocabulary literally doesn't exist anymore for you to tell them to go fuck themselves.
Beverly.
Yeah, Bev does that a lot. He will redefine words all the time, basically trying to define you into a box that you can't get out of. And I'm like, no, go fuck yourself, dude.
I don't even know what his argument is. I told him that what I understand about you use definition arguments. I can just reject your definition and your argument fails.
Bev is a flat earther who is embarrassed to be a flat earther. That's what it ultimately comes down to.
It's the whole thing, like, well, the Earth isn't flat; it's a topographical plane.
Yeah, it's a flat plane with topography, as if flat earthers don't believe that mountains are a thing. I'm sorry, Bev, it doesn't work like that, whether you like it or not. This guy was so intellectually dishonest that he literally said on Twitter that a pizza is not flat. Yeah, I'm like, first of all, the pizza is flat and delicious. Both of those words are very accurate descriptors, whether he likes it or not. Especially the delicious part.
Is it a deep dish or thin crust?
It was it was hand tossed, good sir, and there was no pineapple on it, as God intended, because pineapple on pizza is an abomination.
No,
there shouldn't be any dirt on that pizza either.
I don't know what you're talking about. But speaking of pineapple on pizza, I played Elite Dangerous. It's a space sim, and I have my joystick, my my Warthog, HOTUS, and throttle. Like, it's awesome. Anyways, I need to start playing that. That's why I moved out here, but I need to get like a little stand for my throttle and stuff. Then people can see it in the camera. I thought about getting a 360 camera and playing on the screen so people can turn around the view and watch me play games or not. Because I have other channels. Anyways, I want to share this video. People may or may not like it.
Mm-hmm. Well, before you share it, I would just like to say, Time Lord, I would like to look forward to seeing this debate. So if you have any time frame that gets set later, be sure to tell me about it.
Now? Like 7 p.m. next Saturday?
I can do that.
Let me talk about it with Ozian over the email. We'll figure it out. I can't confirm this moment.
Okay.
Email me, Red, so I have your email too.
I will send you a message.
Or you can message me on X.
All right, I'll be patient.
Message me on X. Where am I going? Oh, I'm going to my channel. View channel. This is I do animations too, but this one's not animation. But
yeah. Well, while you're bringing that up, Billy, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How can I obtain a rockin' beard like that? Because I have tried everything. I've knocked a polar bear unconscious. I've been eating nothing but lumber. I'm wearing plaid. Like, nothing's working, my guy.
How old are you?
I'm 33.
You still have a bit of time, but I don't know. Yeah, you should be already. Yeah, if you're over 30, you should be able to grow the beard, or it's probably not going to happen. Maybe I don't know. There's a lot of things you got to take into account though too. I don't like it's. I had to trim it up too because it was getting a little bit too much.
But what did you do? Did you do I have to knock out a brown bear instead of a polar bear? Do I have to eat
Or
a certain type of lumber? Because I've been eating pine.
wait,
Do
are
I
you
have to-
Canadian too or no?
What's that?
Are you American or Canadian?
American. I'm from Florida.
Well, maybe it's the Canadian thing now.
You know what though? I can't grow a beard really. But I got all my hair on my head.
You know what's funny too? I'm part Native American too, so supposedly they can't grow beard, but it's Métis though, so it's.
So what you're saying is I need to OD on maple syrup and Tim Hortons.
Yeah, you need to start going to Tim Hortons, eh?
I need
playing
to,
hockey.
I need to collect as much Canadian shit as possible, and maybe I'll grow a beard finally. All right, pineapple on pizza. Let's see this.
Pineapple on pizza pirates. What happens? You have to find out. Oh, Commander WTX. So this is an actual player, right? Oh shoot. Okay, I'm submitting. Oh wow! Thank you for the sub. Thank you so much, Murad, for the sub. Man, you're like my 5th or 6th sub, I think, like that. I'm not stopping. They're trying to stop me. Like, okay, am I cooled down? Yep. Bye. Darn it.
4, 3, 2,
I know. Was that you? Oh, it's I'll follow me on Discord and ask me. Oh, for the pet thing? I don't know. Oh, darn it. They're good. What do you need?
under attack.
Okay. All right. So this guy's he's gonna pop me if I don't stop.
Incoming mission critical message.
Probably. But this what is your opinion on pineapple on pizza? No way. Only jalapenos and pepperoni. That's a trick question. I'm not going to tell him the truth. I'm just going to say jalapenos and pepperoni.
Scan detected.
And ranch dipping sauce.
He got me with the ranch.
Thank you, Commander WDX. FYI, you are on my stream. Anyways, I think that's funny. He knows he was on my stream because he stream sniped me, the little jerk. He was the one that just subbed to my channel. That was on Twitter. They called, channel members on Twitter are called subs. But yeah, it's sort of funny. But yeah, he goes around hunting down other players to ask them if they like pineapple on pizza. He has this whole list of like 2,000 different people what their opinion is about pineapple on pizza. So I lied to him because I didn't want to get killed because I thought he would kill me if I didn't lie.
Man. Well,
funny.
It makes sense, but I'm going to take the advice someone said in the live chat because I looked over there briefly and it said, have you tried a motor oil? Yeah, I got to bathe myself in motor oil and that will help me grow a beard. So I'll try that and get back to people. But what I'm going to do, being that it's 2:05 a.m., is I'm going to head off. But tomorrow I will start the live stream around noon-ish Eastern time. And hopefully Flatzoid will show up. And if he doesn't, then wow, who could have seen that coming? But if he does show up, then juicy. Can't wait. Should be awesome. He gets to explain why he removed 11 or 13 or whatever it is frames from my video.
Yeah, you can ask him why he was such a disgusting person on Matters Now too, if you want to.
I'll do that. I want to ask him to define hypotenuse because he apparently thinks it's an angle instead of a side.
Really? No way.
Yeah, there was a screenshot, and I was like, please tell me this is a fake screenshot. Please tell me it's a fake screenshot. And they're like, nope, it's real. And apparently that's one of the reasons why he nuked his previous account, because it had embarrassing shit like that on it. So someone was able to get a screenshot of it, and I was like, that is hilarious. So I'm just gonna ask him straight up. Is this you? Did you actually say this?
Yeah.
We'll see. But anyway, I'm gonna go now and say sweet dreams. But yes, let me know, Time Lord, whenever you have a time set, and I will show up in the audience.
Will do. Thanks, Reds.
No problem. All right. Peace out, guys. Have a good night.
Yeah, Red.
All right.
All right.
Man.
Any closing remarks from any of you guys? I gotta go to bed too.
Nadir failed. And your wacky, quacky arguments are not gonna cut it anymore, man. You gotta pick another topic or pick some new material because it's getting old really fast now. And it's gonna happen again on he's debating that Hinduism guy. I guess that's only a debate you might have a chance of winning if you want to be technical, I guess. And that's about it. Thanks again for having me, Ozian, as usual. And everybody have a good night, I guess.
Good night, bud. Thank you, Billy.
See you later.
You there, Issa? All right. Well, if people don't know, I changed it. Oh, do you have anything in final say, Time Lord?
I'll just say that I'll be in contact about that future debate, and regarding the one we saw tonight, I do agree. Nadir and the other guy, was it Jason or Jonathan? Joseph. Sorry, bad with names. Yeah, neither really were connecting anything directly to science, and they were just like, oh, there's kind of sort of this connection here. I didn't really hear anything good, but I had a great time in the side chat. So I wish everyone a good night, and hopefully we can see another one soon.
Yep, we'll be doing more shows. Thank you so much for everybody for coming here. I expect more stuff to get scheduled. I'm sort of in a reading kick right now instead of a streaming kick, but I need to get back to streaming. Don't expect me to dress in my purple. People said I was looking like some trailer trash person. Just because I look like trailer trash doesn't mean I'm trashy. Anyways, thanks all for coming. I'll see you all again next time. Oh, channel memberships. If you give channel memberships now, it's only 99 cents. I changed the way that works. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming here. I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.